An extraordinary offense. They scored over 1,000 runs last year, the most of any big league team in nearly 50 years. Well, the Devil Rays are going to have their own fireworks this year. They've gone for the veteran sluggers. They got 4 of them in a row: Castilla, McGriff, Vaughn, and Canseco. Castilla will join the rest of them on Tuesday off the disabled list. Last year they had 144 home runs, so they should have some fireworks indeed here at Tropicana Field. With me is my partner, Joe Morgan. You don't look that old after all these years. You're still looking pretty good, man.
I'm hanging.
All right. Well, Joe, the Devil Rays certainly are going to score some runs.
Well, they're going to be very entertaining this year. Jose Canseco needs 69 home runs for the coveted 500 mark. First baseman Freddie McGriff needs 9 for 400. Then you have Greg Vaughn. He hit over 50 home runs in his career. He hit 45 last year. And last night he hit this home run in the first time at bat. This one is a monster shot. He hit 2 home runs last night. But these guys are going to put up some big numbers here. I think they're going to be very entertaining. I don't think they're going to win a lot of games, but they're going to be very entertaining. A lot of 9 to 8 games here.
All right, well, they have not been able to beat Cleveland so far this weekend. The Indians going for the sweep here tonight, and they're going with Bartolo Colon, 18-5 last year. He'll turn 25 next month, and they're hoping for him to become that ace #1 starter to take them all the way to a World Series championship.
John, a lot of people feel the reason Cleveland hasn't won a World Series because they haven't had a #1 starter, and they're always behind in any series they start. Bartolo Colon is going to have to be the guy to develop into the #1 starter. They got Chuck Finley. He's going to help them if they play the Yankees. But Bartolo Colon's the guy that's going to have to give them a lot of innings. He's the one that's going to have to lead them to a championship.
All right. He did not give up much to Baltimore in his first start, but he was very erratic in the early going. He makes his second start tonight up against young Ryan Roop. We'll see all those sluggers: Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez, the impressive Cleveland Indians going against the equally impressive sluggers of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Coming up on Sunday Night Baseball.
Clean with a complete line of come-out performance fuel additives. And in part by American Airlines American Eagle, something special in the air. And by Metrix. Find your favorite Metrix product at GMC. Metrix, engineered nutrition for the best shape of your life.
Well, that's the look outdoors here in St. Petersburg, and this is the look indoors. And that maze of catwalks above have been struck a few times already this weekend. Our colleague Alvaro Martin is standing by to tell us about the new surface, the revolutionary new surface here at Tropicana Field. Alvaro?
Thanks, John. Well, visiting teams and their own players complained so much about the old turf, the team decided to make a change. Also prodded by the request of the incoming free agents. Out goes the old nylon artificial turf over a foam layer. In comes something called field turf. Field turf is a weave of polyethylene and polypropylene blades that are about 2.5 inches high. You then put a filling that's made out of ground rubber, ground old sneakers, and sand that's about 1 inch deep. Now, you can tune this field. The more filling you put, the deader the ball. But so far, both teams that have played on this field like it a lot. Sandy Alomar going as far as saying, this is better than the real thing. That means grass. It's made by the Canadian company, costs about $1 million, and it might be the best Canadian baseball export since Larry Walker. Back to the booth.
All right. Thanks, Alvaro. And indeed, both Roberto Alomar and Omar Vizquel told us that they're very impressed with it. I don't understand, Joe, how come it's not up there on the field at the Sky Dome? I mean, that's a place that needs it with the retractable dome, the only retractable dome without actual grass, right? I think this would be a great substitute for it.
Maybe they'll get it up there after it works here for them.
This is the first ballpark, as Alvaro mentioned, of any kind, major league or otherwise, that has it. Charlie Manuel, the first-year manager of the Cleveland Indians, formerly the hitting instructor, must have done a pretty good job of that. They scored over 1,000 runs last year. And here's the batting order he turned in, the Pepsi starting lineup for Cleveland. Kenny Lofton in center field. Omar Vizquel at shortstop. Roberto Alomar at second. 3 reasons why they scored more runs than any team since the 1950 Red Sox. Manny Ramirez in right field, the RBI leader. Jim Thome, the DH. Richie Sexton is at first base. David Justice in left field. Travis Fryman is a slugger, hitting all the way down to the 8th spot. And Sandy Alomar, the catcher, is batting 9th. On the mound for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays is young Ryan Roop. And they believe that he may be the finest young pitcher in the American League right now.
Well, he's the first of their draft choices to make it, you know, to the major leagues for them as a pitcher. And he throws well. He has a good sinker, a little slider, and he's working on a changeup. So we'll see how he progresses tonight. But he basically, he has to keep the sinker down, and you have to throw strikes to these first 3 hitters because they're very patient at the plate.
So here's Roop against Kenny Lofton. And Lofton here for opening day, although when he grotesquely injured that shoulder in the postseason last year, it appeared that there would be no way that he'd be back until maybe June or even the All-Star break. And nobody has ever seen any player make as quick a recovery from the terrible injury that Kenny Lofton had. But here he is, and he hit a home run on opening day against Mike Messina, no less. That is a called strike. 2-1 the count to Kenny Lofton.
These first 3 guys are just amazing, Lofton, Vizquel, and Alomar, at how they work the pitcher, how they run the bases, and truthfully, how well they swing the bats. They're just all good hitters.
Outside of play, off to the left, into the upper deck. Roberto Alomar hitting third.
And he's the most versatile of the 3. I mean, he can hit with power, he can hit the ball the other way, and he switch hits, and he drove in 120 runs last year, which is quite a number of runs for a second baseman or a guy that doesn't hit 30 or 40 home runs a year.
That's into the upper deck. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hey, if you were hitting third in this lineup behind Lofton and Vizquel, you drive in 80 runs, and you're 73 years old.
Hey, we'll just hit some. If I could hit ground balls, that'd be all right.
That's a high foul out of play off to the left. I mean, if you just hit little ground balls to second, you're going to get an RBI at least once a game.
But I think the great thing, though, John, is the fact that Alomar is so versatile. He knows when he has to hit the ball in the air. He knows when he has to go the other way. He does all the little things to get the runners in. Manny Ramirez does it with the big bat and the 2 out hits, but Alomar is a guy that I think keeps it going, and I still think Vizquel was the key to the whole lineup here.
Another foul out of play, so Lofton working Ryan Roop out here to start the ball game. Now, I apologize for saying you were 73, Joe.
That's okay.
That's a gross exaggeration. Joe is only 41.
I wish.
Well, you didn't realize you were retired in your mid-20s. That's a ball up and away. Full count now to Kenny Lofton, and he's seen 8 pitches already from Ryan Roop.
And what he's done, John, is let Omar Vizquel see all the pitches. He's seen the sinker, he's seen the slider, he's seen the pitches that he's going to be able to, he's going to have to hit against when he walks up there.
Another foul back out of play.
It's a pretty good fastball he's throwing right there, because when you can throw Lofton a fastball middle of the plate in when he knows it's coming and still get it on him, you're throwing pretty well. I still think his shoulders bother him a little bit, because on the first swing, kind of short-armed it a little bit with his left hand.
3-2 the count.
Fastball again right there. That one looked like it moved up a little bit in the strike zone, stayed up in the strike zone. Let's take a look at the defense. This is the defense. Vaughn, Williams, Trammell in the outfield. Greg Vaughn a lot of times will be replaced for defense, but not bad. Jenny Castillo will be a third, and Herbert Curry's over there tonight.
Vizquel, 10 pitches to Kenny Lofton, but Ryan Roop prevailed in that rather intense duel. There's a called strike to Omar. And Omar hit a grand slam here in Friday's game. And he's only got 35 home runs in his whole career, and 4 of them are grand slams. No swing, says third base umpire Angel Hernandez. The count 1 ball and 1 strike. Now that is amazing. Sammy Sosa, just by comparison, you know how many he's got? 3. Omar's got more slams than Sammy Sosa, which is remarkable. On the outside corner, nice pitch, strike 2, 1 ball and 2 strikes. He's also, with 4 grand slams, he's equaled your career total.
You're on me tonight, huh? And I had a few more at bats than he had. I'll use the excuse that he probably had. When you hit second, you do not get a lot of chances to bat with the bases loaded.
That's right.
You got to remember that. I hit first and second a lot early in my career.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, so the pitcher wasn't on base a lot for me to drive him in.
I never followed your career until you got to Cincinnati. Just off the outside, 3-2.
A lot of people said I didn't have one until I got to Cincinnati.
All that Houston stuff, I never paid attention to that. You're just one of those guys. You and Sonny Jackson and Jimmy Wynn, Rusty Staub, just a bunch of guys I never paid attention to, yeah. 3-2 the count. Now, if you'd played in Enron Field where they're playing now in Houston, different story. You would have demanded to be traded back to the Astros.
It is a beautiful stadium and a lot smaller than the Astrodome.
Omar Vizquel with a 3-2 count. Kenny Lofton also took root to 3-2. Vizquel, fly ball to left. Vaughn had started back. And that is out number 2. So 2 men gone. Ryan Root doing something that not many are able to do, and that's retire both Lofton and Vizquel to start an inning. And here is Roberto Alomar.
John, I believe last year it took like 40 games before any pitcher put an offer on all 3 of these guys. No one was able to do that for the first 30 or 40 games last year. But I tell you one thing, Root has a good fastball because he's throwing it to these hitters in fastball situations, and they're not able to do much with it. And there again, good fastball moving right over the outside corner.
Ryan has got a degree in agricultural economics from Texas A&M University. Off the outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. His roommate at college, also been in the big leagues with the Minnesota Twins, outfielder Chad Allen. They're still very good friends. To the left center field. A long run for Gerald Williams. No. Still in play. Alomar. He's going to go for 3. Here comes the relay. He is a triple for Roberto Alomar.
That ball is hit a long way in the left center field. Gerald Williams is playing him a little bit toward right field, and the ball was hit right in the gap. Roberto off to a rather slow start so far this year, but I mean, he really drives this ball well. Gerald Williams gives chase, but he can't get there. And Alomar into third. Ooh, man.
Oh, man.
Face full of dirt there. But he'll take it for a triple.
Maybe the worst slide of Roberto Alomar's entire career. You know, that reminded me of when he played for the Blue Jays when they were in the World Series those 2 years. Remember Todd Stottlemyre in that 15 to 14 game split? I think we're sliding into third. It looked just like that.
Third base.
0-1 the count to Manny Ramirez. You mentioned Roberto Alomar's been off to a slow start. That was only his 3rd hit in 21 at-bats, his first extra base hit. Here's Manny Ramirez. Last night, he hit his first home run of the year. And Root came right after it.
Well, he's got a good fastball. He's got good movement on it, John, so he doesn't have to be afraid to throw his fastball.
Manny Ramirez hit .386 with men in scoring position, so it wasn't just that he had a lot of them, and he did have a lot of them, more than any other hitter. 305 men were in scoring position for his at-bats last year, but he also hit extraordinarily well. They thought they had him.
That's what you call a good 0-2 pitch, John. When you're out in front, you try to get him to chase something just off the plate, or you try to hit the outer edge of the plate. And watch, he tries to get this ball right on the outside edge. But if you miss, you're going to miss off the plate. And it's ball 1.
1-2. Ramirez. Very discerning eye at the plate. He thought it was off the plate. He got the call. And he's down on strikes with a high, hard one. An impressive inning from young Ryan Root. Tampa Bay coming up. Bring the Devil Rays into respectability in the American League and also help them build a young pitching staff. Here's the Pepsi starting lineup for Tampa Bay. It'll be Gerald Williams, formerly with Atlanta, center field. Miguel Cairo at second base. Jose Canseco, the designated hitter. Canseco, Vaughn, and McGriff, 111 home runs combined last year. McGriff's at first, Vaughn's at left. He had 2 big flies last night. Herbert Perry is at third base. Bubba Trammell is in right field. Ike DeFelice, the catcher, hitting 8th. And Kevin Stocker, the shortstop, bats 9th. And on the mound for Cleveland, 24-year-old right-hander, a real hard thrower, Bartolo Colon. He was 18-5 last year, but they think he can be better.
Yes, I think he can, because he was getting better as the season progressed last year. I mean, he was down the stretch, he was almost unbeatable because he has such a good fastball.
Just off the outside.
And he has great movement. You could see that Root was up around 92, 93 miles an hour. He starts off at 96 with movement.
That is a base hit. Gerald Williams, who can hit a fastball. He's not your typical leadoff man. He goes up there looking for a pitch to hit right away.
Because that pitch was up and out of the strike zone, but he lined it to center field for a base hit. Take a look at the defense. This is one of the better defenses up the middle, especially in baseball, and this is what you want. Your second baseman, shortstop, and center field, Lofton, Vizquel, and Alomar, all of one Gold Glove. So very talented group of individuals up the middle for the Cleveland Indians. And the problem is Lofton's not 100%. He says he has 1 or 2 good throws a game in him. He hasn't been throwing well other than that. He can let it go for a couple of times a game.
Gerald Williams, also with excellent speed. He can steal a base. They have to keep an eye on him. As Miguel Cairo comes up. Gerald has not yet attempted a steal as a Devil Ray. High and tight. Now, in his start against Baltimore on opening day, Bartolo Colon was just all over the place. And it lasted only 5 innings because he'd thrown so many pitches already in that ball game. They went to the bullpen. On the other hand, although he struggled and was walking a lot of guys, he only gave up 1 run. That's a called strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. Sandy Alomar, the veteran Cleveland catcher, is kind enough to consent to wear mask cam tonight to bring you right into the home plate area. There's the view that Sandy's got of the proceedings. He moved to the outside. And that one misses. A slider. And the count goes to 2-1. Nobody out. No score in the game. Tampa Bay. Cleveland scored 20 runs in the first 2 games of this series. So they'd like to go and get a couple of runs here or more right away. And back to the bag again, Gerald Williams. So they seem to be very concerned about Gerald trying to steal a base here.
I think they're doing it for 2 reasons. One, Cairo likes to, can use the bat. They might want to put a hit and run on, so they want to try to keep it as close as possible for that reason also.
Maybe hit and run play.
Well,
they got it picked off. And the throw down, he just is in time, and Gerald thought he had beaten it. Sexton's throw to second to Vizquel, and Gerald, who never slowed up, made it awfully close.
Nice play there by both Vizquel and Sexton. If you watch, Vizquel comes to the inside, so he'll give him a throwing lane. If he goes to the bag, Sexton may hit Gerald Williams in the back. Now watch, he picks him off. Sexton steps inside here to throw, and Omar Vizquel, see, he's on the inside as well. And you can see that gives him the angle to take the throw, but I can see why Gerald Williams was a little upset, but the throw did beat him there.
The throw beat him, and I don't know if he actually ever even tagged him, much less tagged him in time. 1 out, nonetheless. Nobody on. 3-1 to Cairo. And he gets a walk. Here we go, Joe. What do you think?
Well, I'd say he was safe. Gerald Williams screaming that he didn't touch him.
So it's not just if the ball beats you there. The guy actually has to tag you.
But that's what the rules say.
It worked.
He executed it well, though.
He did. I mean, the main thing, I think, is the way as Canseco comes up now, the runner at first, 1 out, is that Vizquel gave a nice target for Sexton, so that Sexton did not have to worry about hitting the runner with the throw. Canseco takes a slider too low for ball 1. We'll be using backtrack here to get an idea of just how hard and ferocious that Canseco swing is.
And this will be a good matchup because Colon throws hard and Canseco will be swinging hard.
High in the air to center. Lofton looking up into the dome. And that is out number 2.
And you can see 84-mile-an-hour bat speed on that 96-mile-an-hour fastball doesn't work unless you start a lot sooner. But one thing you'll find is that on high pitches, everyone's bat speed will be lower than it will be on a ball middle of the waist and down. It's easier to swing the bat lower than it is to bring it up. See how you have to bring it up and then get to the ball? That's tough to do. And that's why most hitters aren't good high ball hitters, because they drop their hands and then they have to try to get them back up quickly, and it's hard to get them back up in time.
Fred McGriff. And it's a changeup in there for a called strike. That was not the classically placed changeup, but on the first pitch, I guess it's not all that important where you throw. And he chases the high hard one.
Well, it's 97 miles an hour on that fastball. But the good thing about his changeup, John, it's not like 70 miles an hour where you can stride and then check yourself and still swing at it. His is right, about what people want, 10 miles an hour less than what your fastball is.
He's ahead of McGriff now, 0-2. Changeup, then the fastball. Now he throws to first. Cairo is back. Sexton on the back with him.
The key to the changeup, it has to appear to be the fastball when it leaves your hand, and that's why the speed is so important as well as the arm speed.
McGriff, 1 home run so far this year. There goes Cairo. McGriff is down on strikes. He tried to check, couldn't do it. Too bad for Cairo. He was safe at second base, but the inning had already ended. We go to the second inning. Jim Thome coming up. No score.
Delivery. Now watch his wrist. It's going to turn to the inside, which is something if a lot of people aren't aware of. Watch it. See, it turns to the inside, and that's where all the contortion goes on the elbow, and that's why a lot of people have problems with their elbow. Pitchers have elbow problems, but everyone throws that way. The contortion comes to the inside, not to the outside.
That's the look we get from the Ultra.
Okay.
Yeah, you think super, but this is Ultra, Joe.
Ultra.
We're past that super.
Past the super.
And that was really, I mean, I tell you what, it hurt my elbow.
Yeah.
Just watching that. I mean,
wait, John, it took us 11 years to get that, huh? That's Ultra slow. We were just working with slow-mo.
We had it, but we wanted to wait till you were ready.
All right.
11th year, Joe's starting to get ready. Jim Thome with a 1-ball, 2-strike count facing Ryan Roop.
John, we talked a lot about, the Indians scoring over 1,000 runs last year, and no one had done it since the Boston Red Sox of Ted Williams, 1950. I guess the question I would have is, can they duplicate those numbers? We just assume that they're going to be able to duplicate those numbers, but I know the Red Sox didn't score 1,000 runs the next year, and I think it's going to be difficult for them to duplicate all the years that they had last year. Not that they won't play as well or hit as well, but statistics are funny. Sometimes some of those line drives will be caught. Sometimes you won't drive in the runs as you did like the year before. And I just wonder if they're going to be able to do that.
The changeup, Jim Thome down on strikes, and Roop has 3 strikeouts already. Well, I don't imagine how they could possibly do it.
But most people assume they are. As we take a look at this changeup here from Roop, look at that. Great. That's a great changeup in that it moves away from the left-handed hitter as well as changes the speed.
Now, Richie Sexton. You see right now, I mean, Roop has excellent stuff. That slider misses for a ball.
I see one thing, though, John, is looking at that slider, that could be the pitch that gets him in trouble if he doesn't learn to, make sure he keeps it down. Because it looks like it rolls a little bit more than just breaking sharply. He's got such a good fastball, I think he's going to have to use this fastball as often as he can. The slider is not as near a quality pitch as his fastball is.
1 ball, 1 strike to Sexton. 2 young talents here, 25 years of age. Johns off the outside for Roop with a fastball. 2-1 to Sexton, who last year, 479 at-bats, had 116 RBIs. Shortstop across the new turf, juggled by Stocker, and Sexton is safe.
John, when I talked to Roberto Alomar about this turf, he says when the ball is bouncing, when it hits the ground, it actually stays down sometimes, and other times it will bounce. Let's see. See, it's bouncing like a regular grass. Now, see, well, that's pretty true. He just missed it. That's pretty true hop right there. It looked like it got to him a little quicker than he was anticipating.
Well, they did all say, and Stocker told us, in fact, that it's still, although it's much more like real grass, it still has a different bounce coming off the dirt than off the turf. As David Justice comes up, 1 out, 1 on, no score in the game. The changeup misses. In fact, Stocker told us all about it. We were there to record it when he told us about the differences of that bounce.
My first impressions of the turf itself, I think, is a big improvement over what I played on before, especially last year. Not the dirt, but I'm just talking about the turf. It does slow the ball down a little bit. Looks just like grass. You're still on turf, so when you do go from turf to that dirt, it does have a little bit different of a kick to it, as opposed to being on an all grass field, and that's something that we're going to have to learn how to deal with.
So, Joe, I mean, there is a little subtle difference, and I don't know if it played into why he booted that last grounder or not. David Justice with a 2-ball, no-strike count. Powerful left-handed hitter. Base hit. Sexton's going to go for third as Trammell throws into second.
Well, he threw him a changeup, and Justice was looking for something inside to pull, and it's very easy to pull that changeup if you get it middle in, and that was down, and it was also in on the inner half of the plate, so it's right where Justice wanted it. He's got a big hole over at first base. There you see the changeup, and he just rips it into the right field for a base hit. See the big hole over there? That's what you want as a left-handed hitter, is to pull anything over there. You don't have to hit it hard. You just want to pull it toward the hole. Justice is able to do that.
So, bad pitch selection there?
Well, I think it was because he was 2-0, and Justice was looking for anything to pull. They thought he was just looking for a fastball. That's why they threw him the changeup. But as a left-handed hitter, you're just looking for something middle of the plate in to pull into the hole.
So the error has helped Cleveland get started here. First and third, 1 out, and Travis Fryman. This is another reason why they scored so many runs last year. They got guys like this hitting 8. Next ball for a strike to Travis. He's hitting .389. He's the 8th place hitter, and he's driven in 8 runs already through 5 games. This guy used to be the top RBI man for the Detroit Tigers. A little bit off the outside. 1 ball, 1 strike to Travis. Now, Cleveland last year scored all those runs, Joe, and they had a lot of guys went down with injuries. I mean, Lofton was on the disabled list for a long while, and Justice was down with injuries. Fryman, Sandy Alomar. I mean, they only had the actual regular starting lineup in there for a handful of games all year.
Here's the base hit to right field. You can see the dirt, a little bit of the crushed rubber and dirt kicking up as it goes to the outfield. But it's slow. That's the key. You're better on your legs over the course of the whole season.
Infield double play depth for Fryman, and the changeup is low, 3-1. Yeah, when you're actually on the field, it feels just like you're standing on grass, and if you actually put your fingers down into it.
I didn't do that, Joe.
Well, you should have.
Oh.
I kept telling you. But you can put your fingers down there, and it goes down. It's actually
put your fingers down.
Yeah. I wish you'd done it. It was a sensory, sort of a tactile experience. But there's actually sand and crushed rubber compounded the two. And that is ball 4 to Travis Fryman, and the bases are loaded. He told us that in an outdoor field, where you'd have to deal with rain, it drains extraordinarily well. Well, Larry Rothschild, and that error in what looked like a routine ground ball to the shortstop Stocker, has seen Cleveland get something serious going here. 3 men on, nobody out. Extra shredded previous Nikes. ESPN. All right. That's good. He put a lot of effort into that, Joe, and he made it on national TV. The slider is just a little bit low. 1 ball and no strikes. Sandy Alomar refused to swing. We're talking about the new turf here at Tropicana Field. Let's go to Alvaro Martin.
John, interestingly enough, it was Kevin Stocker and Vinny Castilla who tested the turf in a section of the infield as early as January. So if anybody's had more experience here, it's Stocker, although it's not much. The Devil Rays actually played on this field in its entirety once it's set only once before the start of their home opener on Friday. Back to the booth.
All right. Yeah, they just put it in while spring training was actually going on.
But as everyone told us, John, it's better than the old turf. So they'll just have to adjust to it. And that's what being a major leaguer is all about. You can, you know, adjust and catch ground balls on a turf that gives you a pretty much true hop.
Richie Sexton at third base. David Justice, second base. Travis Fryman at first base. And the ninth place hitter, Sandy Alomar, the veteran, trying to deliver a run. 1 ball and no strikes. And that one is pulled foul. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, he's had a good fastball and has gotten it by a lot of guys, but he's not throwing it now, Joe.
He had a great fastball. I mean, up until the error. Then he went to change-ups, and curveballs. He hasn't thrown the fastball, and that's his best pitch. I mean, I'm sure he realizes that these Indian hitters are good fastball hitters, but if you've got a good fastball with movement and you can locate it, you're better off than trying to trick him with change-ups and getting behind in the count.
Well, in the first 2 games of this series, Cleveland was scoring all of those runs. They knocked out Juan Guzman here Friday night in the 2nd inning, and Steve Traxel was knocked out in the 5th inning last night. So the bullpen has already been taxed heavily in Tampa Bay.
Well, I noticed another thing, John. If you're watching the pitch speed, he's not throwing the ball. That was his fastball, but he didn't throw it. It looked like he was aiming it to the inside part of the plate.
Brett Williams, Tampa Bay Devil Rays pitching coach, looking on through the middle. And a base hit. Coming in to score is Sexton. Here comes Justice. The throw comes in toward the plate, cut off by McGriff. Over to third. And it is 2-0 Cleveland. Alomar just bounced one, and it just did make it through the middle.
Well, he was a little bit unlucky there. He got the chopper, but in a perfect position. Alomar hits it right back through the middle, and you can see that Roop was off to the left side. He's not in good fielding position. The ball goes right back over the mound, and no chance for Stocker to come up with it.
First and third now with 1 out, and the leadoff man, Kenny Lofton, coming up. Sandy Alomar delivering the first 2 runs of the game. Now Cleveland's thinking big inning. Fastball too high. 1 ball and no strikes. Lofton had a 10-pitch at bat to lead off the game, and Root, though, ended up striking him out. This all started with an error. It appeared there was going to be 2 out, nobody on. Root has not retired anybody since the error. Change up. Just off the outside. 2-0. Now, time is taken. Larry Rothschild, the manager, on his way out to the mound.
And remember, Rothschild was a pitching instructor for the Marlins before he got this job. So, I mean, obviously he knows about pitching.
Well, don't forget, now, next Sunday night, we will check in with the beautiful new home of the San Francisco Giants, Barry Bonds and company, at Pacific Bellpark as they take on the Arizona Diamondbacks, the defending champions of the National League West. That's 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Next Sunday on Sunday Night Baseball from the beautiful new ballpark right on the edge of the San Francisco Bay. Barry Bonds was the first one in an exhibition game to hit a home run into the Bay, into what they call behind the right field wall, McCovey Cove, after a good friend of yours, Joe.
Yeah. And it's properly named. When he played at Candlestick, they say he hit that one into the Bay.
Oh, man.
Didn't quite make it, but he tried a few times.
Well, he definitely would have done it often at the Giants' new ballpark. Lofted into right center. Nobody's there. It's going to go through to the wall. Fryman has scored. Sandy Alomar is going to be waved home. Here comes the relay to throw to third for Lofton. Not in time. It's a triple for Lofton. 2-run score. And it is 4-0 Cleveland.
And, John, that's the problem that young pitchers have. They fall behind in the count, and then they throw the fastball, and they don't throw it as well as he was throwing it in the first inning. And when you do not throw a good fastball to these hitters, they will make you pay. 2-0 fastball pretty much in the middle of the plate. And Lofton ripped it up the gap, and you can see that he can still run. His shoulder may be bothering, but it didn't bother his legs at all.
the new Cleveland third base coach. Now the infield comes in for Omar Vizquel. 5 straight batters have reached base, starting with the error, Richie Sexton reaching in the error, then Justice single, Fryman walk, Alomar 2-run single, now Lofton a 2-run triple. Center field deep enough to get the fleet-footed Lofton home. Gerald Williams with the catch. And Lofton easily scores, and it is 5-0 Cleveland. So Vizquel getting the job done.
Well, truthfully, that's why these Indians scored over 1,000 runs last year, John. They know how to play. You have a group of veterans who are smart players, they're smart hitters, and Vizquel's job, he knew, was to get the ball in the air to the outfield, and he did that.
Now, Roberto Alomar. He hit a triple his first time. Cleveland had not hit a triple in this first week of play until tonight. Now they've tripled twice in the first 2 innings here at Tropicana Field. Ball 1 to Roberto. 1 ball and no strikes. Cleveland is opening up the year with a long road trip. They started in Baltimore, lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles, who've been the hot team in the American League the first week of the season. Baltimore won again today. They've won 5 in a row. And Cleveland got knocked around a little bit by their old manager, Mike Hargrove, with his new ball club. They're going for the sweep here in St. Petersburg. Alomar retired on the fly ball to Williams. 5 runs. Greg Vaughn coming up when we return.
And Gumout takes us to Cincinnati Cubs and Reds, and Ken Griffey Jr. with his first homer as a Red. Now has 399 in his career. Reds come back to win in 11, and luckily for Joe Morgan, Griffey didn't wear number 8 in Seattle. John?
No, that one's retired. Actually, he wanted to wear Tony Perez at 24, and Tony Perez is going to be retired later this year.
Yeah. This is our 11th season of ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. 2000 debut. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball presented by Gumout. Greg Vaughn, the hitter. Those big sluggers Tampa Bay has put together. Vaughn is the one who's been slugging. Hit 2 here yesterday, including a spectacular home run. They estimated at 462 feet.
John, going back to last September 1st, he's hit more home runs than anyone else in the major leagues. He has 19 since September 1st. McGuire had 15.
And a pop foul out of play.
And Gary Sherfield has 14. And yesterday, this is the first home run. I mean, this is a monster blast deep in the center field. He followed that with just a routine home run. The other one was 462. That's probably about 380.
They counted that one?
Yeah, that one. You're right.
2-1 the count.
Good fastball.
Right on the outside, 2-2. And Vaughn thought it was a little bit off the outside. He was talking to Marty Foster, the plate umpire, about it. Well, we go back. He had 50 in 98, 45 last year. And just McGuire, Sosa, and Griffey. He's the only guy outside of all those National League Central guys on that list. Slider, check swing on the appeal. Ron Culpa rules in favor of Vaughn. 3-2.
Colon is starting to fall a little bit more off to the first base side. The fastball that he got for strike 2, he really exaggerated his movement to first base, and on that slider, he did the same thing. What he appears to do is make sure he gets the ball toward the outside corner or off.
3-2. Foul ball, back out of play.
Yeah, well, you see guys that can get their bat speed 90 and above, they can hit tape measure home runs, as we saw Vaughn do yesterday. And Castillo doesn't have 90 plus. He has right around 90, but he doesn't hit tape measure jobs like Canseco, McGuire, and those guys have those real quick bats plus the strength to go with it.
He hits homers, but not ordinarily those routine.
Yeah, he just hits a home run.
Puts him away on the 3-2 count with a 5-run lead. Tough pitch, tough lead.
Well, most of the time you think a pitcher doesn't want to walk if you're leading off an inning, but you can see the breaking ball there. He's a good slider from alone, and I'm sure that Greg Vaughn was looking for a fastball as well.
One down, and Herbert Perry comes up now. Herbert Perry, who originally came up with the Cleveland Indians. There's a little bit of a problem right now when you're a young guy coming up with Cleveland, which is they got great veterans at every position. I mean, it's tough to find a spot. And he came up and hit the ball real well at the tail end of 1 year. Then he got hurt. He's trying to resurrect his career. Looked like he was going to be a real strong hitter. There's the look from Mascam, being worn by Sandy Alomar. 2-0 the count.
John, the Indians have taken some criticism for some of the players they had to trade away. Brian Giles, they didn't have a spot for him. Sean Casey, you know, they traded him. I mean, but now those two guys are two of the best players in the game. But if they would have stayed in Cleveland, what were they going to do? Share time with Tony and Sexton and Justice and these guys. So I think maybe part of the problem is some people aren't happy with what they got, although they got Dave Burba in the Sean Casey deal, and he started opening day. He started right away for him, became a starter, and did a good job. So, but from Brian Giles, they got Rincon, and he hasn't done as good a job with Indians as he did with Pittsburgh.
Behind second, there's Roberto Alomar. In time to get Herbert Perry on number 2. 2 down. Yeah, I mean, Rincon, I mean, it looks bad now since Giles hit 39 home runs for Pittsburgh last year, but Rincon did not have a very good year with Cleveland, spent some time in the disabled list, but, you know, you asked any scout who had watched Rincon in the National League, and the report was always the same: best left-handed reliever in the National League.
Right. And when he first, remember last year in Cleveland, they didn't touch him for the first month of the season, but then after that, he really struggled.
Rincon has been in 3 games so far this year and has not allowed a run. So maybe the real Rincon will surface this year for Cleveland. 2-0 the count to Bubba Trammell. Bubba, who hit a pinch hit home run here Friday. Only the 3rd pinch hit home run in Tampa Bay Devil Rays history. That's off the outside. 3-0 to Bubba. He had 14 home runs last year, even though he batted only 283 times. He started the year in AAA ball. Fastball in there for a strike. By the way, Joe, I mean, this place has the reputation of being a real home run hitter's ballpark, but I found out something I did not know before the game from Chuck Lamar, the GM of the Devil Rays, who said that their statistical research showed, and that's strike 2 call, that this ballpark was just right in the middle of the pack on what it did with offense. By and large, visiting teams didn't do any worse or any better here than they did anywhere else. Same with the Devil Rays. So they feel that really that this is a fair ballpark.
Well, I think it was a good hitter's park because of the AstroTurf. It really helped them get base hits.
Outside ball 4, and that's the second walk allowed by Colon. Bubba Trammell goes to first with 2 down. Hold that thought, Joe, but right now I want to remind you about Outside the Lines, presented by AT&T. Rights and wrongs, hazing in sports, hosted by Bob Lee, delving into the problem. For instance, the University of Vermont canceled its hockey season after players on the team broke a student code by hazing newcomers. That's Tuesday at 7 Eastern Time on ESPN. Now here is Mike DeFelice. Jose Canseco said this is a pretty tough park, since he said he hit one about as well as he's ever hit one here the other night. Got a double on it because it hit one of the catwalks that helped hold the dome up. That catwalk, that one up there, he hit so over 100 feet above the field, or 150 feet, whatever it is. It's way up there. That's a foul on the third base side. He thought it was gone and was into his home run trot, he told us. Last year he hit one up there. I mean, that is way up there. I mean, it looks like we're right up there with it right now. But you ought to see it the way we're seeing it. Yeah, we have to put our glasses on to see that. Canseco says, man, I couldn't believe I hit a ball that well and only got a double on it. And let's take a look just how high up that is. It is way, way up there.
That's a true big fly.
It's a big fly for a double. Look at that. The actual ground rules that govern which of those catwalks or rings is in play and which, if you hit them in fair ground, are actually home runs. They've got two rings that are much further out. If you hit those two, it's a home run. But if you hit the one Canseco hit the other night, it's in play. Ooh, called a strike on the outside. 2-1 or 2-2 to DeFelice. 5-0. Cleveland ahead, a 5-run second inning. It all started on an error. 2 of the 5 runs unearned runs. Bartolo Colon looking for his second win of the year. 3-2. 97 miles an hour.
Well, the one thing, he doesn't aim the ball to throw strikes. He just lets it go. And that's what you want. I mean, you're supposed to just let it go. You start aiming it, and you get it in the strike zone, and they'll make you pay for it.
Colon will not turn 25 until late next month. It's from the Dominican Republic. There goes the runner. And that's a base hit to left field for DeFelice. Stopping at second is Bubba Trammell. And now Kevin Stocker will come up, the 9th place hitter.
There's a shot from Mascam, and you see how the pitch is on the inner half of the plate, and he rips it past Travis Fryman at third.
So 2 men on, 2 men out, and here's Kevin Stocker, former Philadelphia Phillies shortstop. Remember, Stocker had quite a 2-month period when he came up in the minor leagues with the Phillies back in 1993. I thought he was just a good no-hit guy. He hit real well. The Phillies went to the World Series that year. Change-up, strike in his own.
And remember, they traded him for Bobby Abreu. And Abreu was picked by the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in the expansion draft. And the Phillies wanted Abreu, and he's been a great player for the Phillies.
A great trade for Philadelphia. It's sharply, but right to Sexton at first. Colon covering. They get the out. And the Devil Rays leave 2 men on. It'll be Manny Ramirez coming up when we return. 5-0 Cleveland.
And Marchand.
It's the view from what is called the Batter's Eye Restaurant out in the hitter's background in center field. And look up there in the corner of that particular window. Somebody hit a shot during batting practice, and it almost ended up in somebody's soup out there. Manny Ramirez with a big rip. 91 miles an hour is bat speed on that one. 1-1 the count. One strike to Ramirez. Jim Thome and Richie Sexton will follow, so there's big power coming up for Cleveland here in the 3rd inning. Problem for Manny Ramirez, Joe. Nobody's ever on base when he comes up. 5-0 Cleveland. Cleveland in the midst of a 9-game road trip to start the year. Fastball from Ruth in there for a strike. This is, the longest road trip, Joe, to start a season that Cleveland has had since 1906. And I'm surprised by that because Cleveland usually doesn't have the greatest weather early in the season. Oh, man. Nice pitch, a hard slider, and Ramirez is down on strikes.
Well, we've showed you some bat track speeds tonight, and here's what they really mean. Great bat speed is 90 miles an hour plus. It gives you a chance to wait longer, more margin for error, and you can hit tape measure home runs. Average bat speeds, you need to have a shorter swing, a little better bat control, and you can hit the ball out of the ballpark, but you have to start a little sooner, which means you have to commit a little quicker.
So this guy, Jim Thome, he must have a ferocious bat speed. 1 ball and no strikes.
Well, he definitely has good bat speed because what he does is he clears his hips and then he lets the bat flow through. He clears his hips probably as well as any hitter in the game today. And he has 95 mile an hour bat speed was his top speed we recorded last year. Again, Manny Ramirez.
Change up off the outside, 3-0. Who was the best, or not the best, but the highest?
Well, the highest last year was Sammy Sosa at 99, but I would say consistently, you would have to say maybe Mark McGwire was consistent with his, 98, 97 mile an hour swing. You take a look here. Sammy Sosa, there's McGwire at 95. Sosa had a couple of them at 99. Mike Piazza, Juan Gonzalez, because I was surprised that Piazza's was as quick as it was. I mean, he's just a great hitter, but I was surprised that he had that type of quickness. But then again, he had a couple of tape measure home runs last year, which adds up to having that kind of bat speed.
And he kind of got that fastball in under the hands of Thome that time. I wonder if that cuts down the bat speed a little bit.
Well, it does. You get better bat speed middle of the plate and down.
3 infielders on the right side against Thome, and the changeup got him swinging. He swung at it real hard and very quickly, but he didn't hit it.
Well, that's the difference in this inning as compared to last inning. He's throwing the fastball, getting ahead, and then he's been able to finish him off with something off speed. Before he was throwing off speed, getting behind and having to give them a fastball. And you can see that Thome, watch his hips, watch how he clears his hips. They're gone. That allows you to have the freedom of swinging the bat. And it's great to open your hips as long as you don't open your shoulders with it.
That's a called strike on the inside to Richie Sexson. 6 feet, 8 inches tall. He was safe on the Stocker error in the second inning. That started the 5-run rally. And it's foul off to the left. The changeup again. Well, Sexton's got a pretty quick bat, too, doesn't he?
Yeah. A lot of people have a quicker bat on the changeup because, again, that was down. So he saw it quickly, and then he went after it.
5-0. Cleveland ahead. 2 down, nobody on in the third. Ryan Roop.
Now, with 2 strikes, if he gets a changeup, he'll probably be slower in that he's trying to stay back and put the ball in play. But that's what a good pitcher can do. He can make you change your bat speed.
Fastball off the outside. 1-2.
And no one's better at that than Greg Maddux. He'll throw you 4 pitches, and all of them will be a different speed, which means you have to adjust all those speeds.
1-2. Staying with the fastball. Trying to tantalize him with it, but Sexton refuses to offer on either one of them. 2-2.
66 pitches in 2 2/3. He's going to have to cut down on his pitch count if he expects to go deep into the ball game.
The slider bounced to third. And Perry throws out Sexton, and the inning is over. Roop has his first 1-2-3 inning. Top of the order coming up. Canseco due third when we come back.
Home sweet home. Home to suffocating hot.
I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan as we get a look at the proceedings from outside. Friday night here, an opening night. Jose Canseco just hit a monstrous shot. He thought it was going, but it hit one of the catwalks up there. Ricocheted back onto the field. He got a double on it as Gerald Williams, back to live action, hits a foul down the left field line. Gerald singled his first time.
And Canseco still looking for his first home run. Sounds like,
had it.
Yeah, seems like a lot, John, but he needs 69 for 500. And let's face it, McGwire hit 70, so now anything is possible. We know that.
So you're predicting Canseco will hit 69 home runs this year?
You're not listening.
That slider looped into center, and Gerald Williams, who hit a fastball for a single his first time, hits the slider for a single this time. Well, Canseco, we talked to him about it. That monstrous blast hitting the catwalk. Here's what he told us.
By first hit, I just stood there and looked at him, wondering, you know, where was going to land, really. And then I took off, ran to first base, and I'm jogging around thinking it's a home run. Then all of a sudden, I almost get tagged out at second, realizing that it hit the catwalk and it brought it back into play. I was thinking the other night, that same ball I hit yesterday, what if I hit it at Fenway? And it definitely goes over the lights. I mean, no, I've hit him a lot less than that have gone over the lights in Fenway, so it's just a matter of where you're actually playing.
I didn't ever have that problem, John, so I can't identify with what happened.
Well, that should be like, you know, I really like Jose talking to McGuire and Sosa.
Yeah, he was talking to you, Mark, Sammy, Griff. He was talking to all those guys. We were just listening in.
Yeah, well, he clobbered it, but he got nothing for it. Miguel Cairo, the hitter, 1 ball, 1 strike. Gerald Williams at first. It's 5-0 Cleveland. Last of the 3rd inning. Canseco on deck. So Cairo's job here is just to figure out a way to get on base, because they've got some guys, Canseco, McGriff, Greg Vaughn, the next 3 after Cairo, who could cut into a 5-0 lead in a hurry if they can get some people on base here. Williams at first. Nobody out. Sexton on the bag with him as Colon goes to work. Fastball too high. And it is 3-1, and Sandy Alomar takes time and go out and talk to Colon about this being no time to get wild. After the ball game, we'll see some long home runs. It's the big league challenge, sort of the 21st century version of home run derby. It's tonight after the ball game, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific time, and every Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern, big league challenge, the home run hitting contest. And Jose Canseco matched up with Mike Piazza tonight. And that's ball 4. Well, right now it's Jose Canseco matched up with Bartolo Colon. We got not the big league challenge here. We got some big league hardball now. That's what we're here, Joe.
Well, this is why the Devil Rays are entertaining. They're down 5-0, but as you said, they can get back in the ball game in a hurry with the next 3 guys, Canseco, McGriff, Vaughn, and just think they're going to have Vinny Castillo back on Tuesday.
You know, when Canseco got hurt last year, he had to have back surgery, July the 10th. He had 31 home runs. Ken Griffey Jr. had 28. Mark McGuire had 28. Sammy Sosa had 1 more than Canseco. He had 32 to Canseco's 31. So, I mean, he was right up there with him, and in the case of McGuire, he was ahead of him.
They have hit 60 himself last year.
Big rip there, but a foul back into the crowd. 94-mile-an-hour fastball there from Colon. That's a spot where Canseco has the power to hit one, but usually when he hits him, Joe, we don't see him to right field or in right center that much. Gerald Williams at second. Cairo at first as Colon goes to work. Popped up. Playable for Sandy Alomar. The infield fly rule in effect. Canseco is gone on a pop-out to the catcher.
Well, he got a fastball that ran in under the hands, and Canseco could not get to it. Now watch, this fastball is right in under the hand. See how he kind of shortened his swing trying to get to it. See how he pulls his arms in trying to get to that fastball. And when you break down like that, it's awfully hard to get a lot of bat speed and generate enough to get it out in front. Good pitch. Not, you know, you have to give the pitcher credit. He made a great pitch on Canseco there. Fastball tailing in at 90+ miles an hour.
Now another powerful hitter, Fred McGriff. The whole group of fans out there in right field so respectful of Fred McGriff's power, Joe. When they come to Tropicana Field, they put on the hard hats. McGriff struck out swinging in the 1st inning. Williams at second, Cairo at first. McGriff, who grew up in this area. Called a strike on the outside. 1 ball and 1 strike. The guys out there in right field we were telling you about.
Yeah.
I wonder, do they pass those out when you come to the ballpark?
In right field?
Or do they just all bring them? on that fastball. They appealed to the third base umpire, Angel Hernandez, but he ruled in favor of McGriff. 2-1.
John, that's one of the things they've been trying to get Bartolo to do is that when you sink the ball down a little bit more, you have to take a little off your speed so it will sink down, but make sure you start it down. You may get a lot of hitters chasing that pitch.
McGriff almost chased it. 2-1 the count. Chase that one.
Then you just come back and say, can you catch up with this one now? 97-mile-an-hour fastball.
2-2 the count. Dick Pohl, the Cleveland pitching coach, the third different pitching coach they've had in the last 3 years, and of course with a new manager, Charlie Manuel, coming in. They've got a lot of new coaches on the Cleveland staff this year. Dick Pohl, who at one time was the pitching coach for Dusty Baker with the San Francisco Giants. The bullpen coach in Boston after that for a while. He was with the Anaheim Angels last year, now with Cleveland. 2-2. In the dirt with that hard slider, knocked down nicely by Sandy Alomar. Williams had to hold at second with Cairo still over there at first. By the way, just on the right side of the screen there, as we looked at Cairo, was Jose Cardenal, the former Yankees first base coach. There's Jose. He's now the first base coach here for the Devil Rays. Many think the Yankees will miss.
I'm one of those people that think that they will miss him.
3-2 the count. McGriff high in the air along the left field line, and that'll go back in amongst the spectators. The third baseman, Fryman, and the left fielder, Justice, both gave chase.
And a lot of people say, well, how can a coach have a big effect on a team winning or losing? Well, I think his effect comes with his camaraderie with El Duque, first of all, who was, came from Cuba, didn't know much about New York, and Jose helped teach him about New York and make him comfortable there. And he was also kind of his interpreter a lot of times. So, and Jose's the kind of guy that just settles everybody down on the ball club. He's kind of a quiet kind of guy, but if you need some consultation, you go to Jose.
He's not liable to get a World Series check this year.
No.
Coaching for the Devil Rays. Fred McGriff, 3-2 the count. 1 out, 2 men on. And he draws the walk. The bases are loaded for Greg Vaughn, who hit 2 home runs here yesterday, and this is really the power versus power confrontation.
And, John, this is one of the problems that Bartolo has had his entire career. He'll be going along, throwing great, and then all of a sudden he just kind of loses the strike zone. And that's difficult to do, especially when you're facing a lineup like the Devil Rays have, because one mistake here or there, you aim the ball and get a fastball in the middle of the plate or something to Greg Vaughn, and you can be in a 5-4 ball game before you know it. But he was able to strike Vaughn out with a breaking ball his first time up.
It's 4 walks now by Colon in 2 and a third innings. 3 men on, 1 man out. The slider for ball 1. That was the 55th pitch thrown by Colon already. Williams led off the inning with a single. He's at third. Cairo walk at second. McGriff to his walk at first. Vaughn, 45 homers last year with Cincinnati. 50 the year before with San Diego. He hit 2 here yesterday. For sure, this could be 2. Vizquel, the second walk. Alomar to first. Not in time. Vaughn able to beat it out. Coming in to score is Williams. Going to third is Cairo. And it is 5-1 Cleveland. Vaughn gets the RBI.
And you have to give Vaughn credit for hustling down the line. He got out of the box really well. A lot of times, big sluggers, they tie themselves up with the long swing and can't get out because they turn it. As you can see, Roberto Alomar turns it very well at second base. Strong throw to first, but not in time. As you see, perfect execution there by Omar Vizquel and Roberto Alomar, but they can't get the speedy Vaughn.
And I'm wondering if this were the old rug artificial turf, that might have gone more quickly to Vizquel and did a double play. Anyway,
no doubt about it. I think on the artificial turf, he gets it a lot quicker, and they turn it.
This new artificial turf called field turf, which is very much like the real thing. Herbert Perry, former Cleveland farmhand, trying to hurt his old ball club now. 1 ball and no strikes to count. He grounded out his first time. 2 2 on, 2 out. And foul goes back out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, it'd be tough for the Devil Rays to have gotten out of this with just 1 run. And remember, they're still missing that 4th slugger that they acquired in the offseason. Vinny Castilla has yet to play a game. Castilla, one of the former Blake Street Bombers in Colorado, is right now scheduled to play his first game coming off the disabled list on Tuesday. Back to the screen, 1-2. We were hoping he'd play tonight, Joe, you know, for Sunday Night Baseball, our 11th anniversary and everything. But I think Larry Rothschild just thought to take tonight off. Tomorrow's a day off in the schedule. Get 2 extra days off so he'll really be all healthy. I don't understand that kind of thinking.
No, I think he should have played tonight and then taken tomorrow.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I like seeing Vinny attack the baseball.
1-2 the count. 2 out, 2 on. Well, a real defensive hack there. He just did get a piece of it to stay alive. 1-2. I mean, Cologne will make you defensive. Bubba Trammell would be next. Pyro at third, Vaughn at first. Sandy Alomar from Mascan. Back to the plate on the outside there. Did he swing? No. A slider. And Herbert Terry checked his swing. First base umpire Ron Kulfa ruling in favor of Terry. By the way, we've got 3 former National League umpires working tonight here in this American League game, including Ron Kulfa over at first, Randy Marsh at second, Angel Hernandez at third. Umpires are now Major League umpires rather than National League and or American League umpires. 2-2 the count. 2 on, 2 out. There it is. Got him looking at the fastball. So the Devil Rays get just the 1. 5-1 Cleveland as we go to the 4th. David Justice coming up. Cleveland almost has like 2 lineups in one.
Yeah.
They've got their top guys at the order, then the cleanup hitter and whatnot. Then you get down to the bottom of the order, and they got another 3rd and 4th place hitter. David Justice often hit 3rd in years past in Atlanta, or 4th. And then you've got Travis Fryman, who was a cleanup man in Detroit for a long time. They're the 7th, 8th place hitters here. Justice singled as part of that 5-run 2nd inning rally against Ryan Root, who misses inside for a ball. 2-0 the count. The Cleveland Indians, I mean, it's a veteran ball club, but sometimes what they do with their farm system, not just scouting and signing great young talent, developing young talent, but the whole program, they get lost in all of that because you don't think of them as a team developing young talent because they've got so many guys who are at the top of their game, have been around a long while. But Manny Ramirez, for instance, he came through their farm system. We didn't all predict that Manny would drive in 165 runs one day. Justice deep into right field. Trammell, this one is off the wall. The carom played by Gerald Williams, who hustled over, and it's a double for David Justice.
Well, Justice gets a fastball about belt high, and he hits a line drive. He just didn't have enough altitude to get it out of here. It's more of a line drive. He hits it hard enough, and you can see it carries, but not quite high enough off the fence, right at the base of the yellow sign. But a nice play by Gerald Williams to get over and back up and hold Justice to a double.
Now Travis Fryman, the hitter. Slider in there for a called strike. Fryman walked his first time. In that 5-run rally in the 2nd, 4 of the runs were scored by the last 4 hitters in the batting order. Sandy Alomar, who drove in the first 2 of those runs, is on deck. Just missing on the inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Anyway, Manny Ramirez developed in that farm system, and a lot of the success they've had came as a result of developing young guys like Carlos Baerga. You know, when they first got good, Baerga was one of their big stars. Albert Bell came through the farm system. And they made several shrewd trades. For instance, Kenny Lofton acquired when nobody really thought much of him. He was with the Astros farm system.
Yeah, he was better known as a basketball player from Arizona at that time.
People thought he could hit well enough to be a big leaguer. And that's a ball down and in.
You know, if you watch Ruth, one of the problems he has, John, is with men on base. As long as he can wind up and throw, he seems to be doing well. He has good stuff. But when he gets men on base, he doesn't seem to handle the stretch very well.
Well, when you face Cleveland, you're going to have to work from the stretch.
Yes, you are.
They're going to get guys on base, that's for sure. 3-1 the count. And it's a foul off to the left. 3-2 the count now. Nobody out. Justice having led off the inning with a double. Tampa Bay Devil Rays with young Ryan Roop out there, and right now they're a little short-handed in that rotation. The veteran Wilson Alvarez still on the disabled list. He worked a simulated game tonight. They're hopeful he'll be back in 10 days. Juan Guzman had to leave the game the other night. Ball 4. Let's go down now to our colleague. Here's Alvaro Martin.
Thanks, gentlemen. Today, the Cleveland Indians invited their Winter Haven Rookie League team to come here, watch the game, and also listen to Major League players like Omar Vizquel, Roberto Alomar, and Manny Ramirez on Life in the Big. This is part of probably the most comprehensive off-the-field player development program in all of the majors. Now, Manny Ramirez is part of this a product of this program. Manny was relocated along with his family from New York City to Cleveland. He also has used extensively the team's psychology department to sharpen his concentration and his mental preparedness for the game, and it's clearly shown on the field. Now, we'll see how much of that work weighs in his position, as he's a free agent at the end of the year, and he's looking at really signing a deal for the prime of his career. Joe, John?
All right, Alvaro. Indeed. I think we're going to try and get into that in a little more depth as we go along, because it is very interesting. Under John Hart, the fine general manager of the Cleveland Indians, the architect of these outstanding Cleveland clubs of the past several years. And there's a lot more than just putting the ball club together, the trades, the free agent signings, that sort of thing, that has made this Cleveland club what it is.
Well, John Hart has done a great job, not just in acquiring talent, but keeping the talent that they had. They made an innovative move earlier.
Sandy Alomar with a fly ball to right. Bubba Trammell in a little bit. David Justice tagging up at second. He's bluffing. Trammell hits his cutoff man, Kevin Stocker. So there's one away the runners had to hold.
John, remember they signed all of their young players, you know, by Ergens that you were talking about, all the young players, Sandy Alomar Jr. They signed a lot of their young players before they were eligible for free agency. They gave them some big bonuses and kept them all together. And that's one of the reasons this team has been so good for such a long period of time. They kept their nucleus together. And so that was an innovative move by John Hart. And I think this, helping these young players to adjust, you know, to coming from another country even or another area, adjust to being in Cleveland, I think is really helping. I mean, I think that's a great idea.
Here's Kenny Lofton now. That's in there for a called strike. That was interesting today. Bringing all of the young guys over from their Winter Haven farm club to get a little taste of the big leagues, but also to get a chance to hear from current big leaguers. Down the left field line by Lofton. That's a fair ball. Coming around third is Justice. He'll score. Heading for third is Fryman. He's in there safely. A double for Kenny Lofton. Another RBI for Kenny. He has a double and a triple tonight, and 3 runs batted in. 6-1 Cleveland. And the Tampa Bay bullpen is busy. And here comes Larry Rothschild.
Well, we'll take a look at this as an 85-mile-an-hour changeup. He's trying to just lean the ball away from him, and he doesn't get it far enough away, and Lofton rips it down the left field line for a base hit. And again, he has problems every time he gets into the stretch, John. He stops throwing his fastball, and he goes to a lot of off-speed pitches.
And there's Jim Morris, 36-year-old left-hander, up in the bullpen. Rothschild at the mound with Ryan Root and the catcher, Mike DeFelice. And that's going to do it for Root. So, for the 3rd consecutive game this weekend, the Devil Rays starting pitcher is knocked out early. 6-1 Cleveland in the 4th, and we'll be right back.
Watch RPM tonight, every night on ESPN2.
And Jim Morris, a guy who'd been out of baseball for several years. He was a high school baseball coach. He left professional baseball with a bad arm. And he throws a called strike to Omar Vizquel. He comes out in a tight spot with Travis Fryman at third base, Kenny Lofton over at second base, and only one out. The infield is pulled in for the Devil Rays. Vizquel, who has flied out to shallow left and hit a sacrifice fly, batting right-handed now. And he could not hold up on that low slider. 0-2 tough pitch there from Morris.
Very good pitch for two reasons. One, it was breaking down the strike zone. If he hits it, you get the ground ball that you're looking for. Because that's what you want here, either a strikeout or a ground ball to one of your infielders.
Did he swing? The appeal. No swing, says Ron Culpa on the appeal.
That's a pretty big curveball there. It reminds a little bit of Paul Offenbacher. He pitched for the Indians for so many years.
1-2 the count. Roberto Alomar on deck. Fastball outside, and he throws pretty hard. That's why he got a tryout. The two runners he inherits belong to that man, Ryan Root. He's coaching and also a chemistry physics teacher at Reagan County High School in Big Lake, Texas. And that curve is bounced foul back behind the plate. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Anyway, they're throwing batting practice to the high school kids on the baseball team and throwing so hard. And they finally talked him into trying out. They said, man, you are throwing so hard. And nobody wanted to give him a tryout. Finally, Tampa Bay, they needed arms. They were willing. They clocked him at 96 miles an hour at the tryout. Through the middle, base hit. Fryman is in. Lofton is in. And it is now 8-1 Cleveland.
That ball was hit right back through the middle, and Morris could not field it. He wasn't able to knock it down, so good hitting there by Vizquel. Well, we've talked about him at the beginning. I still think he was the most important cog in this lineup last year because he allowed him to do so many things. Watch this, right by his glove. Look at that. Right underneath. But it's very difficult to throw the ball and be prepared for the ball coming straight back at you that quickly.
Well, that's 3 RBIs for Vizquel. The top 2 RBI men for Cleveland last year were Ramirez and Roberto Alomar. Alomar, Ramirez, and Jim Thome, the 3, 4, 5 hitters, do not have a single RBI tonight. The top 2 hitters, Lofton and Vizquel, normally the guys who get on base and score all the runs, they have driven in 6 runs between them, 3 apiece.
Well, John Hart acquired Roberto Alomar last year. But I think you have to give the credit to Mike Hargrove for the way that he used it. He put Omar Vizquel in the second spot. That allowed Roberto Alomar to hit third and use his versatility as a hitter. And he responded by driving in 120 runs. A lot of guys would have just put Roberto Alomar in the second spot and kept Omar Vizquel down at the bottom, like a second leadoff man, as they call it, hitting ninth. And you would not have had as potent a lineup as they did have. So I think you have to give Hargrove credit for putting him in that spot and giving him the opportunity to do everything that he's done.
Alomar drives one down the left field line deep. That one is way back there and gone. That's his versatility. The first home run of the year for Roberto Alomar and his first 2 RBIs of the year. Coming here in the season's 6th game for Cleveland. And now they have busted it open here. It is 10-1 Cleveland.
Let's take a look. Morris tries to get inside with a fastball. And Roberto Alomar whips it right out of there. Take a look at Roberto in super slow motion.
That was neat. We saw it hit right in the sweet spot there, didn't we? What do you think?
Right in the sweet spot.
The center of percussion. That's what the physicists call it.
Well, you said Morris was teaching physics, didn't he?
Yeah. He can use that video.
Actually, you're right, John. He's throwing the ball well. I mean, you're looking at some of the better hitters in baseball. He threw some good breaking balls to Vizquel, and then he had to come with a fastball after he missed with a couple of breaking balls, and he hit back to the middle for a base hit, and he threw Alomar a fastball in the wrong spot. Ball was in and pretty much down, and Roberto reacted.
8 of the runs of the 10 total are charged to the record of Ryan Ruth. Jim Morris has faced 2 hitters. Omar Vizquel just get a little bouncer that nobody could get. 2-run single, and then Roberto Alomar launches one into the stands. Manny Ramirez now. The count of 1 ball and 1 strike. And the question, Ramirez, who has blossomed into one of the most fierce, really one of the most feared sluggers in the game, and great clutch hitters. You put men on base, and he's going to get them home. But he's in the final year of his contract with Cleveland, and they might lose him. Here's the drive into center field. Gerald Williams, and he's got it for the out. Alvaro Martin, who knows much about Manny Ramirez and the program that has helped him blossom here in Cleveland. Alvaro?
Yeah, it's a wonderful program that has 3 psychologists on staff. One roves the minors. The other 2 really work with the major league team. They have an office on the runway on their way to the dugout in Jacobs Field. And even during the game, sometimes they've had consultations with players. With Manny specifically, they work on his concentration, on his breathing techniques, and the sort of work that really produced such a great season last year. In '98, when he received the 1998 Cleveland Most Valuable Player Award, he immediately handed it over to Dr. Charles Mayer, who runs this program for the Indians. So clearly it has an effect.
That's great. Wow. Well, and that's, again, we're talking about John Hart, right. Innovation. Right. And, I mean, you often talk about the mental aspects of the game. Well, Cleveland has gone more than just talking about it.
That's exactly right. I mean, they've executed 3 psychologists. There are some teams who have 1 that's available for guys to talk to, but having 3 and to have them in an office right there at the ballpark, that's amazing.
Well, Jim Thome caught looking at the curveball for strike 3, but 5 more runs, and Cleveland is leading 10-1.
Mark McGwire. McGwire with 1,500 hits now, more than 1/3 of which are home runs, 524. Rick Ankiel, the big story, though, struck out 10 in 6 innings, his first major league win. John?
All right. So Big Mac goes deep a couple of days in a row, and Rick Ankiel, the future for the Cardinals. And we saw him last year, Joe, and we're pretty impressed. He's got great stuff. Bubba Trammell against Bartolo Colon. 10-1. The Cleveland Indians are leading. Colon was in a lot of trouble there in the 3rd inning. Tampa Bay was threatened to get back in the game. Sandy Alomar, the catcher, wearing mask cam tonight. Fastball. Missing. 1 ball, 2 strikes to...
This is what I was talking about with Colon. Now, this inning, he looks like he's got his rhythm. He's not falling all over the place. He just goes 1, 2, 3, you're out. We pointed out last time when he was in trouble, it just looks like, I don't know if it's, they said before that he would lose his concentration sometimes because he had a big lead. I don't know if that's the fact or not. It just looks like every once in a while he kind of loses his rhythm out there, and he doesn't throw a lot of strikes. But right now, he's throwing strikes again, and when he does that, I mean, he's almost unhittable.
1 down, nobody on, and here is Mike DeFelice. Well, and part of that goes back to what Alvaro was telling us about this program with the 3 psychologists on staff with the Cleveland Indians. I mean, they have a whole department for that, including an office near the dugout at Jacobs Field, where a guy like Colon, I don't know what he might do, but I mean, just theoretically, could go back between innings and talk about keeping his focus, that sort of thing.
Well, I tell you what, if we go to a Cleveland game this year and we're in Jacobs Field and we look up and there's only 5 guys on defense out there, we'll know where the other 4 are, right?
1 ball, 1 strike to DeFelice, the catcher who singled his first time. But, you know, really, and Charlie Manuel said this, the manager, when he used to manage in the minor leagues, he had to do all that.
Right.
You know, he thought a guy had a concentration problem. Well, he had to go and try and talk to him about it. And now they have people who are experts on that aspect of the game.
Well, a lot of guys told me years ago that to be a good manager, you had to be part psychologist,
part father figure, part all. You know, you had to have a little bit of everything. And so now maybe that allows Charlie Manuel to be just the manager and worry just about statistics and X's and O's.
And to be a good manager for Cleveland, you have to have a good psychologist on staff. Alvaro Martin is downstairs. And Alvaro, I mean, is that the way it would work? I mean, if Colon was having some problems staying focused, and again, he'd go back between innings and talk to somebody about it.
I'm not sure about Colon doing this today, although the psychologists are here in this park today. But he did meet with him earlier today to go over basically whatever's bothering him, concentration techniques again, breathing, what to do in certain situations, visualization. But I also spoke to Luis Isaac, who's the bench coach, the bullpen coach for the Indians. He says the problem he's got, he does not have command yet, full command of the corners, he says. That's why he ended up throwing 55 pitches in the first 2 innings of the outing on Monday against the Twins. But hopefully he's getting better, and he's only 24.
Alvaro, you think that psychiatrist can help me with my golf game?
Might as well give it a shot.
I doubt it. Down on strikes, DeFelice is retired. 5 strikeouts now for Colon, 2 down. And that's a cool dude.
You
think that guy's related to Sparky Lyle?
He looks like it.
Raleigh Fingers' brother, maybe? That's the cigar bar out beyond the center field area here. That's a loud, raucous place, Joe.
John, that's what you call kicking back.
Yeah.
With a cigar and big mustache and watching a little baseball.
Kevin Stocker, base hit to right field against Colon. And really, I mean, but Joe, now you're kind of, you know, you're making light of it and all in good humor, right? What we're talking about here, but I mean, this is we're talking about advanced thinking and in terms of the all-round performance to provide maximum performance for an athlete. It's not that unusual. I mean, other sports have been doing stuff like this for years, right? I mean, you know, football. You go to Olympic sports, all of I mean, right. And there are countries whose athletic associations have had that kind of total kind of training in every aspect, both the physical, the spiritual, the mental, you name it, for a long, long time.
Well, hey, he's relaxed anyway.
Enrique Wilson,
he was the doctor,
mummifying one of his teammates here. Those guys. Well, you can tell which team is leading 10-1.
Yes, you can.
By just checking out the dugout. They have a lot of laughs, playing little practical jokes. Life is good. That one right back to the backstop, and over to second base goes Kevin Stocker. 10-1, Cleveland is leading here. And we're talking about the way it looks over in the Cleveland dugout and the Tampa Bay dugout.
They're trying to figure out how they can get 9 runs.
They're not having a whole lot of laughs in there right now. And not last night and not Friday either. Vinny Castilla, Greg Vaughn, a couple of Warriors have been through the Warriors for a long time. Jose Canseco. But it's going to take a lot of slugging to overcome this kind of a deficit. And that's the problem for the Devil Rays, is finding the pitching to keep them engaged. I mean, this is sort of overkill. I mean, the Cleveland Indians is the best hitting team in the majors, and in this weekend series now, they have scored 30 runs in these 3 games. Gerald Williams, the hitter. Travis Fryman. And Williams. Oh, man. I thought he was going to be called safe on that one. That's the inning. We go to the 5th. 10-1, Cleveland. Now, Jim Morris. In relief of Ryan Root, down to Richie Sexson, and there's ball 1 off the outside. 1 ball and no strike. Sexson hitting 6th in the order, has been safe on an error by Kevin Stocker, and he's grounded out to third, 0 for 2. David Justice and Travis Fryman will follow. Slider swung on and missed. 1 ball and 1 strike. 10 runs on 8 hits for Cleveland. And all of the sluggers in the order, Ramirez, Thome, Sexton, Justice, Fryman. And the RBI leader for Cleveland so far this year is Omar Vizquel. Look out! McGriff and Cairo colliding, and into second safely is Sexton.
Well, that lack of communication there. The second baseman had the best angle on the ball, so he should have been calling McGriff off, and maybe he was. I don't know exactly what happened there, but on a pop-up like that, you shouldn't have that kind of miscommunication. Now watch, McGriff is going down the line. The ball is going to come back this way, right there to the second baseman. The second baseman should be calling right now, yelling at McGriff, I've got it, but McGriff sticks his glove out and it goes off of his glove.
And McGriff will be charged with the error.
Well, he actually misjudged it, John, because he went towards the line and the ball was coming back towards second base.
David Justice takes ball 1. Well, probably the wind blew it.
Okay. It's probably raining outside, too.
It was very windy outside when we got here. That's a ball too high.
We are in a dome for people who didn't know that.
Well, that's a good point. 2-0 the count to David Justice. 10-1 Cleveland ahead here in the 5th inning. And that's a little bit low for a ball. 3-0 to Justice. The right-handed batting. Travis Fryman is on deck.
John, not to, try to make excuses or anything, but I was impressed with Ryan Root and his stuff. I mean, he had a good fastball. He's got a pretty good slider and a changeup, but his fastball is his best pitch. But you have to remember, he's going against a veteran team that knows how to hit in all situations. They know how to get themselves a pitch to hit. And we've seen that with Roberto Alomar, even against Mars here. These guys get pitches to hit.
Popped up, shallow left field. Greg Vaughn in foul territory. And that is out number 1. Sexton holding at second base.
The Indians do not just go up there swinging the bats. They go up there with a game plan, and they execute it very well. And there you see where the Indians rank as far as runs scored. Look at that. The Red Sox were the last to do it, but look at the Yankees. Where are the 27 Yankees?
Yeah, they were pretty good, Joe.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah, but the 31 Yankees, 36, and the 30 Yankees, the 3 highest scoring teams of all time. The 27 Yankees, Joe, number 7.
Okay.
They were more of an all-round club. They could pound you at their offense. They were the top pitching team. Wade Hoyt, was their ace. Eventually became an excellent broadcaster.
Yeah, he broadcast for the Reds when I first went there, and he used to tell me stories about he was Babe Ruth's roommate. But he said he only roomed with his luggage most of the time. That the Babe didn't come in all the time.
The Yankees led the majors in pitching and offense in 1927, won 110 games. That's a foul that will go out of play off to the right. So the count is 2 balls and a strike. But the interesting thing was we saw the 1931 Yankees, the 1930 Yankees, 2 of the highest scoring teams of all time, and they didn't win the pennant either one of those years. And the Philadelphia Athletics, who had a guy by the name of Lefty Grove, was the best pitcher in the game at that time. They pitched much better than those Yankees. Hitting alone is not enough. And Cleveland found that out last year. They got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs by the Boston Red Sox.
Well, the Red Sox had an unfair advantage, though. They had Pedro. And under normal circumstances, they had enough hitting to win last year. But unfortunately, they had to play the Red Sox and Pedro.
And there were a lot of changes made, not with the ball club as much as off the field changes. A new manager, new coaches. Ball 4 to Fryman. He has walked 3 straight times in this one. 2 men on, 1 man out, and Sandy Alomar comes up. He's had a 2-run single, and he is flied out to right. Is the new manager, Charlie Manuel. And they had a 2-0 lead over the Red Sox in that best-of-5 series, and never won another game. Pedro, who was hurting, who said afterward that he knew that he was risking his career by going out there, and he threw 97 pitches out of the bullpen, even though he was hurt, and shut down the Cleveland Indians as the Red Sox scored a ton of runs. In the last 3 games of that series, the Red Sox won all 3 of them. The Cleveland bullpen allowed 29 runs in 3 games. Sliders.
Well, we were talking about the fact they made some changes. I mean, only John Hart knows why he replaced Mike Hargrove, because Hargrove had won 5 straight division titles. So there had to be something else going on, but
that's a foul. 1-2 the count.
there's Charlie Manuel, the new manager of the Cleveland Indians. You mentioned he was a hitting instructor before. Look at that. Games 1 and 2, 1.50. Earned run at only 11 base hits. 3, 4, and 5. Earned run average of 15.48. That's not going to win you many ball games.
I mean, game 4, what the Red Sox scored 22 runs, some unbelievable amount. 2-2 the count. Sandy Alomar, 2 on, 1 out. Did he swing? No. First base umpire Ron Copeland on the appeal. Full count now to Sandy. 3 balls and 2 strikes. 10-1, Cleveland ahead in the 5th inning. Well, you're right. I mean, only John Hart knows exactly why, but obviously the standards are awfully high with this.
Yeah.
I mean, teams only have a certain window of opportunity. I mean, you can't stay at this level forever.
And the Indians have stayed there a long time, truthfully. And, you know, just being a consistent ball club for a long period of time. They just have not been able to win the World Series.
Rick White up in the bullpen for the Devil Rays. 3-2 the count. So they're with Atlanta, really. I mean, if you don't get to the World Series, it was not a good year.
But the Braves have only won 1 World Championship.
Yeah. But I'm not one of those. I mean, maybe the Braves and maybe the Indians are looking at it, if they don't win the series, it wasn't a good year. But I'm not one of those who looks at it that way. And to me, if you make the World Series, then you had a great year.
Well, there are 28 other teams that wish they were in your position. No, I agree with you. I think sometimes we overvalue just the fact of winning the championship. There are a lot of little battles fought over the course of 162 games that bring a team together, and they're important.
That's a base hit to left field for Sandy Alomar. Sexton will stop at third as Greg Vaughn throws through. And the bases are loaded. And we go to the top of the order for Kenny Lofton. And Lofton, he's been the RBI man in this one. They've had runners all over the base paths for him. Back in the 2nd inning, he had a couple of guys on.
That one all the way to the gap for a triple, and then he hits a double down the left field line with a couple of runners on.
Knocked in another run. He has picked up 3 RBIs. Hitting in the leadoff spot. He's had a double, a triple, 3 batted in. Vizquel, the number 2 hitter, single, and 3 RBIs. Roberto Alomar, the 3rd place hitter, a triple and a homer, and 2 batted in.
Well, the funny thing, John, is Manny Ramirez has only batted with 1 runner on today. And that was in the 1st inning when Roberto Alomar hit a triple. The other times he has not had people on base. Alomar and Lofton has cleaned them up.
If he wants some RBI chances, they better hit him leadoff.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about those 3 guys, these extraordinary first 3, which is part of why these guys are so tough. I mean, they have awesome power, but they've also got these guys who extend rallies, guys who hit 300, guys who get walks, guys who are always on the bases. I mean, it's awfully tough for Lofton, Vizquel, and especially Roberto Alomar in a spot like this to keep Cleveland from scoring a run. Put a runner at third, less than 2 out. I mean, these guys don't strike out very often.
They put the ball in play. But, John, I think part of it is due to the fact that they're a very smart team. They're a veteran team that knows how to hit in every situation. And I think that's the key to them being successful. Not just a lot of overall talent, but smart as well.
Cairo, the second one. Snapper to first. No way he's going to double up. The speedy Kenny Lofton. Sexton is in to score. Fryman over to third. Sandy Alomar wiped out at second base, and Lofton gets his 4th RBI of the game. Over to third base. Travis Fryman on that play. 11-1 Cleveland. Kenny Lofton, I don't think he could have had too many games in his career, Joe, with 4 RBIs.
Not as a leadoff hitter. That's why I only had 4 grand slams, John.
Because you were hitting up at the top.
Yeah, up the top of the order.
That's because you didn't play for this team.
Yeah.
If you played for this team, you would have been paying extra. You would give us part of your salary back if you could have hit leadoff. Down the right field line by Vizquel. It's a fair ball. Scoring. Fryman. Lofton all the way through. In there.
And they have speed. Maybe they will score more than 1,009 runs this year.
Yeah, before the night's over. So it is 13-1. And Omar Vizquel got 5 RBIs.
And you mentioned he had a grand slam Friday night to drive in 4 runs. And this is what he did all last year. I mean, he was just a good, very good player. As I said, I still think he was a key to their lineup. He made it all work for them. He let all the other guys do their thing, and you can see the close play at the plate, but Lofton is in there.
Felice actually blocked him off the play, but Lofton got in there anyway. Pitching change. We'll be right back. He made of Dave Burba and Dustin Hermanson. Pretty good high school team. Pretty good pitching staff anyway.
Great pitching staff.
Dave Burba, a pitcher with Cleveland, and Dustin Hermanson with the Expos. So here's White to face Roberto Alomar. That's a strike. You saw Vizquel over at second base. Omar's got 5 RBIs, 1 below his career record of 6. You know who leads this powerful Cleveland team in RBIs this season? Omar Vizquel. I mean, if you hit behind Kenny Lofton, you're going to have a chance to get RBIs.
Well, he's done a good job. Last year, he was the guy. Like I said, he drove in a lot of clutch runs for him down the stretch.
Oh, man. Curveball got Roberto Alomar. Alomar got a triple and a homer earlier tonight.
Looked like it got him right on the knee.
So he's over to first, and Manny Ramirez actually will come up with some men on base for one of the few times tonight.
Well, watch this curveball. It gets him right on his right knee.
Ouch.
Yeah, that hurts. He actually, when he made his stride out there, he looked like he had all his weight back, and he couldn't get off of the front foot right there. So he tries to jump back.
Ball 1 to Ramirez. He did come up in the first inning with 2 down, and Roberto Alomar at third base, but he struck out. And then he batted with the bases empty in the third and the bases empty in the fourth. And he is 0 for 3. He's got 2 men on right now. 13-1, Cleveland ahead. That's a strike. A nice pitch to the outside from White. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's Vizquel at second. Roberto Alomar at first. Ramirez is the 8th batter of this inning. This inning started with the dropped pop-up and miscommunication between Cairo and McGrin. That's a foul. 1 ball and 2 strikes. All of the runs are unearned.
And remember, John, that one of the other big innings started when they scored 5 runs with an error on the shortstop in the second inning. With 1 down, Stalker made an error, and they ended up scoring 5 runs that inning after the error.
I mean, you cannot give this club extra outs. Right there. Got him looking with the breaking ball. But it is 13-1 Cleveland. We go to the last of the 5th. Canseco and McGriff coming in. On Sunday Night Baseball. Next Sunday we'll be in San Francisco to take a look at the beautiful new Pacific Bell Park. From the shores of the San Francisco Bay, the Giants and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Barry Bonds taking aim at dunking one in the water there in McCovey Cove. That's next Sunday, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern on ESPN.
Yeah, John, you've seen the new ballpark. I've only seen pictures of it. I'm looking forward to going opening day. Willie Mays said he's going to get me some tickets, so I'm planning on going opening day. I just thought I'd put him on record here on the air.
Suppose McCovey and Cepeda could come through for you, too, if you have. Yeah. Cairo's down on strikes as Bartolo Colon gets his 6th strikeout, and now Jose Canseco will come up. (13-1), Cleveland ahead. Base hit to left field. Canseco's first hit. And now McGriff with Vaughn behind him. Now, see, Joe, when I was a kid, I grew up in San Francisco. I wanted to see the long ball.
I agree.
Coming up on Wednesday, the Giants and Dodgers from Pacific Bellpark, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. The first night game at the beautiful new ballpark in San Francisco. Also, it's the Diamondbacks and the Padres from Qualcomm Stadium at 10 Eastern on ESPN2. That's Wednesday Night Baseball on ESPN and ESPN2.
Well, maybe I'll just stay over at the park and do the game the next night as well. Maybe that'll get me in.
Well, call Willie. He's got a lot of requests. He's a busy man, Joe. Fred McGriff, the hitter. Sandy Alomar wearing masked can. Moves to the outside there, and he got the called strike. 1 ball, 1 strike to McGriff, who has struck out and walked. But see now, if I went to a Giants game, they always had Mays and McCovey, Cepeda,
right?
Jim Ray Hart,
Willie Perkins.
If they hit a couple, then I was glad I went. I mean, they might lose, but if they hit a couple, well, I was excited that I went. It was a great memory for me.
Well, that's what I say about the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. I think they're going to be exciting to watch these sluggers hit, unless they're down quite often, 13-1 or whatever. But
well, the good news for the Devil Rays, right? It's 13-1. How much good news is there? Good news. This is the last game Cleveland, is going to play here before they head out of town. See?
Yeah.
See, I look at the bright side. Strike 3 to McGriff on the outside. 7th strikeout for Colon. And Greg Vaughn will come up.
Let's take a look at this in ultra slow motion. Look how his wrist turns over and fastball away, just right on the outside corner.
Now, he's not exactly ready to field a comebacker there.
No. Well, Bob Gibson wasn't in position to field it either, but he was a good fielder.
Well, that looked a lot like a lot of those pictures you see of Bob Gibson after his follow-through on one of those blazers. That's a strike call to Greg Vaughn, who was struck out and hit into a force play. He's had the only RBI for the Devil Rays so far. 13-1, Cleveland leading in the 5th. 2 down, runner at first, Canseco. Ooh. Now, that was some hard ball right there.
And he was a little bit overmatched. Ball was up a little bit, 87-mile-an-hour bat speed, but 97-mile-an-hour fastball. That's tough to hit when it's up around your shoulders. Watch this. High fastball right there. See you later.
0-2 the count. And he went still higher.
Well, I think he was going to see if he could throw one 110 miles right there. He was just going to let all of it go right there.
Alomar had to go up for that one. Canseco at first, 2 down. Little slide piece.
Yeah.
2-2 the count. I remember doing a game at Fenway Park once in 1980. The Red Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. This was in the days of, Harvey's Wallbangers, the True Blue Brew Crew. They had all those sluggers, Gorman Thomas, Ben Ogilvy, Cecil Cooper, Yount, Molitor, Ted Simmons. They beat the Red Sox 19-8. The Red Sox hit 6 home runs in the game. I mean, imagine that. You hit 6 home runs and you lose by 11. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, a lot of teams hit home runs like those old Brewers. good at that time right now. This is the end of the first week of the Major League season, and we've had a power explosion all week long.
And, John, the problem is I'm on record as saying I thought pitching would be better this year, that there would be fewer runs scored.
It's a little bit too high.
Maybe there will be.
Well, I think you're right. It's just 1 week.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know if they scored more runs this week than they scored the first week last year. I mean, of course, weather conditions have a lot to do with that. How about Randy Johnson today? He won a game 1-0 in Arizona. That's ball 4. I remember you saying you thought Randy Johnson was going to be better this year.
Yeah. I did say that, didn't I? I'll have to go back and find out where I said it, but I think I did say that.
Thought he was going to pitch well for a team. He and Jason Schmidt of the Pirates got hooked up in a duel at the Bank One ballpark. Randy pitched a 5-hitter, no walks, 13 strikeouts. Jason Schmidt gave up 1 run and 4 hits and lost it. That's a tough lead. The only run driven in by Lenny Harris on a sacrifice fly in the 7th inning. That's a foul out of play by Herbert Perry. 2 on, 2 out here in the 5th. So there's some pitching for you. A 1-0 ball game in Arizona today.
So I definitely believe that pitching will be better overall this season.
Red Sox beat Anaheim today 5-2.
Well, 5-2, that's borderline pitching.
Not a great game for Pedro Martinez, though. He gave up 1 run in 7 1/3. I don't know what's wrong with him, Joe. Had 12 strikeouts, 1 walk.
Amazing.
That is a called strike to Herbert Perry.
But I think the amazing thing is Johnny says, well, I don't know if I can do that again. That was just a once-in-a-lifetime type of season he had last year. And I guess what he meant is he may not be 23-4 this year. He could pitch as well, but, you know, the numbers may not come out the same.
Well, so far this year, he's 2-0 with a 0.63 ERA. Maybe that's what he meant.
And he was on a disabled list last year.
Maybe he meant his ERA wouldn't be as high this year. Strike 3 for Perry. That's 8 strikeouts now for Cologne. Jim Thome coming up, 13-1 Cleveland.
He lives in Tampa. Look at that. Sarasota. That's what it is. Sarasota. He lives in Sarasota.
One of those Tampa Bay area cities. Sarasota, the springtime home of the Cincinnati Reds now. Jim Thome takes a called strike from Rick White. Now, how could this be? Cleveland has 13 runs on the board. Manny Ramirez is 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Jim Thome's 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. And they got 13 runs on the board.
Lately, the Devil Rays have only 6 strikeouts, and 5 of them are between those 2 guys.
Yeah. Well, 6 of them between those 2 guys.
Yeah, 6. They have 7 then, because
nobody else.
Kenny Lawson struck out the first hitter of the game, and that's it. The other 2 have struck out 3 times apiece, 6 times between them.
Well, that's why Cleveland's only got 13 runs. 1-2 the count. Thome bounces it foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now, when you come to a game here at Tropicana Field, you sit down behind your backstop. You get your own computer screen, and they tell us, Joe, that you can decide what camera you're going to watch.
Well, that's what he's doing right there. Well, we wouldn't need Mark pitching in, would we?
He's the guy that decides that for us.
Yeah.
I would only sit in one of those seats if I was going to the game with Mark. So he could tell me which camera to take as Jim Thome strikes out for the 4th straight time. Hope he's catching the hockey scores now. Oh, wait a minute. He's a little bored with this game now. He's got ESPN News on now, Joe. One down. And Sexton. You don't need to be going to ESPN News right now because we've got Sports Center right after the ball game. We've got everything for you right here. We got the ball game. Stay tuned. Richie Sexton. Now, he has not had a hit either, but he's been safe on 2 errors, each one starting a big inning.
Well, he heard you.
He's got a base hit. He reached on an error by Stocker in the second. That started a 5-run rally. The error by McGriff in the fifth. That started a 3-run rally. Now he gets a 1-out single here in the sixth. Here's the gum out in-game box score for Cleveland. Look at those guys at the top of the order. They're supposed to be the guys that get on base so that Ramirez and Tomey and Roberto Alomar can drive in the runs. And they're hogging all the RBIs tonight. 4 RBIs for Lofton, 5 RBIs for Vizquel.
And that's what makes this such a good ball club. You know the other guys are going to drive in a lot of runs.
David Justice. Down the right field line. That one is gone. A home run. And it is 15-1. David Justice with his third hit. A single, a double, and now a 2-run homer. It's been a long night for Larry Rothschild and his Tampa Bay Devil Rays. And it's not even close to being over.
Well, it's a fastball that's inside, and David Justice just turns on it. See the super slow motion? And that's probably what it looked like to David Justice, because he turns on this fastball. Look at that, right on the sweet spot.
Ball 1 to Travis Fryman, who's walked 3 times. David Justice, second home run of the year. Richie Sexton, congratulating. I remember the late Cal Ripken Sr., Joe, used to greet all of the young Baltimore Orioles minor leaguers for years and years and years by saying, "It's great to be young and an Oriole." And I happen to be both, he'd say. Well, it's great to be young and a Cleveland Indian.
Right.
Yeah. Great to pitch for these guys, isn't it?
Yes.
Slider is low. 2-2 the count now to Travis Fryman.
You don't have to worry about being shut out too often.
Now, Randy Johnson today, he got only 1 run of support, and that was enough. But he lost some games like that last year.
He went through a stretch there where he couldn't win a ball game. He'd give up 1, give up 2, give up 1, and he would lose ball games.
What is it? One he pitched a 2-hitter or something, and the other guy pitched a no-hitter. Did Jose Jimenez with
right, St. Louis.
St. Louis. Then they hooked up again a little while later, and Jimenez shut him down again. I think they got 2 hits or something. Back out of play. 3-2 the count to Travis Fryman. You know, but Joe, I know we just saw another 2-run homer, but see, yeah, for president.
Of what?
We need some more information on that.
Yeah.
Side. 3-2 the count. President of Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah,
I'll
go for that.
But getting back to your comment, your earlier comment, you've kind of gone on a limb this year saying that you're predicting that pitching will be better this year. I mentioned that Randy Johnson 1-0 win over Jason Schmidt today. Montreal 2, San Diego 1.
Okay.
That was Hideki Irabu, former Yankee. 7 innings, 1 run given up to the Padres.
That's good, because that's just what he needed. I mean, Hideki needed to have a good outing. He got beat up pretty badly his last time out. And Felipe Alou has gone on record this year saying that they're going to have a pretty good ball club up there in Montreal.
Well, they're off to a fine start. I mean, Bad Vlad. Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, isn't he?
Now, he is really something. Today, he was hitless.
Well, he's hitting 570 going into today.
No, not anymore.
No, not anymore.
Down to 500. I don't know what's the matter with him. Bad Vlad 0 for 3 today with a walk.
Well, that's unusual getting a walk, because he's a free swinger.
But Jose Vidro also fell off today. Now, see, these guys, people around the country say, who?
Yeah, right. And they're good players.
Jose Vidro, he hitting 500. Now, he hit 300 last year. And Guerrero, I mean, this guy's got the kind of talent. He can stay healthy and continue to learn the game. Because I think he came late to the game of baseball.
Yes, he did.
If he can do all those things, Joe, I mean, this guy's got the ability to be one of the all-time greats. Now, I'm going out on a limb.
That's not much of a limb.
Sandy Alomar retired. It's 15-1. Cleveland. We go to the last of the sixth.
What if you could make every discovery again?
Come out. We're in St. Petersburg at the Tropicana Field. And it is 15-1 Cleveland as Jacob Cruz goes in to play center field, replacing Kenny Lofton. And Enrique Wilson has come on to spell Roberto Alomar at second base. And Kenny Lofton retires with a double and a triple and 4 RBIs and 3 scored. Roberto Alomar retires with a triple and a homer and 2 RBIs. Bubba Trammell against Bartolo Colon. Enrique Wilson gets a chance right away, and there is 1 away. Let's go to our colleague Alvaro Martin.
John, you would think that baseball players who typically are very superstitious would be wary of wearing number 13. Well, that's not the case if you are an infielder and you're from Venezuela. Just like Omar Vizquel does, Ozzie Guillen, who's now a Tampa Bay Devil Ray, they're all wearing that number in homage of David Concepcion, who played shortstop with Joe Morgan with the Cincinnati Reds. There are 2 of 5 players in the majors from Venezuela who play the infield that wear that number. There are 16 in total. So over half the teams have a player wearing number 13, but it's very special for these Venezuelans. When I asked Vizquel as to whether he would be specially superstitious about number 13, he goes, why? They're all millionaires.
That's well spoken. But he's right. David Concepcion, he's told me many times David Concepcion was his idol. And he's one of my idols, too. He was a great player.
Mike DeFelice, the hitter. There's Ozzie Guillen. Just activated by the Devil Rays here recently. He was let go by the Atlanta Braves. They decided to go with this 19-year-old, very interesting talent, Rafael Furcal. By the way, just for the record, he's wearing number 1. I think he's old enough. Oh, and been around long enough to wear number 13. Yes. 3-1 the count to DeFelice, who is 1 for 2. Cleveland, by the way, after this game, you know where they go? Oakland. And they got a long trip.
Maybe I should have asked for a ride.
Half swing, past Colon. He made a dive for it. Enrique Wilson throws out DeFelice. 2 men gone. Miguel Cairo had been wearing number 13 for the Devil Rays, but when they signed Ozzie Guillen, Cairo gave up the number for Ozzie's benefit. Cairo is now wearing number 1, and Ozzie Guillen was Cairo's idol when he was younger.
Well, that's respect.
And Cairo is also from Venezuela. I'm glad we have Alvaro here tonight. We're learning something. We're getting a lot more information than you and I usually get.
Well, I remember what Vizquel said. He said they're all millionaires, the ones who wore 13. Well, yeah. David Concepcion told me he had millions of bees. That's the currency over in Venezuela. He said he takes all his money and takes them. He calls them bees, though. He just goes and turns them into bees, he said.
Kevin Stocker, the hitter. 2 down, nobody on. Stocker is grounded out in single. Pitching is going to be better this year, said Joe Morgan. Let's get back to that for a moment. Yeah. Colon pitching awfully well tonight. I guess he's one of the guys you were talking about.
I was talking about Colon.
Philadelphia.
Randy Johnson. I was talking about those guys. Pedro.
Philadelphia had Houston today. Right, the new Enron Field. Not like the Astrodome.
Small park.
Small park. Final score, Philadelphia 3, the Astros 2.
Who pitched those games?
Andy Ashby started.
Well, that's what I was talking about, Andy Ashby.
Shane Reynolds.
Shane Reynolds, yes.
Guys who know how to pitch. And 73 degrees and clear. They played outdoors in Houston. Just like you never did.
Never. Well, I did at the Colt 45 station. But we wish we were not outside. It was really hot there with big mosquitoes.
You had big mosquitoes while you were playing ball?
Oh, please.
These are big Texas mosquitoes.
Big real mosquitoes.
That's why they built the Astrodome. And he changes up. Colon with another strikeout. We're going to the 7th inning. top of the order coming, 15-1 Cleveland.
Where life is our life's work.
Now to the 7th inning, the Cleveland Indians 15, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays 1. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters, back for our 11th year. And there's the new pitcher for the Devil Rays, Dave Island. And he will face Jacob Cruz, Omar Vizquel, and Enrique Wilson. Also a new double play combination has come in for Tampa Bay. Ball 1 to Jacob Cruz. Ozzie Guillen in at short for the Devil Rays, replacing Stocker, and a new second baseman also is in there. Tony Graffanino replacing Miguel Cairo. Backdoor slider from Island misses. 2-0 the count. Kenny Lofton tonight, whose spot on the order Jacob Cruz has taken. Drove in 4 runs hitting leadoff, had 2 for 4. And did you know Kenny Lofton has the second highest career batting average in April among all active American League players? Only Ivan Rodriguez is ahead of him for April hitting. I guess we shouldn't have been surprised. Curve ball in the air to right center. Bubba Trammell's got it. 1 away. Lofton, a career record of .328 in the month of April. Ivan Rodriguez, .332 in April. And then, you know, some guys usually do get off to fast starts, and other guys can't buy a hit in April.
Well, Ken Griffey Jr. has been struggling. He had a couple of base hits today, but he's struggling. He went 0 for 10 or 11 before he got his first base hit in the National League.
Hit his first home run today. That started a comeback against the Cubs.
And the first one is usually the toughest, so after he got that, he'll probably settle down and do as he normally does in April, hit a lot of home runs, get off to a good start.
Well, Don Baylor showed him quite a bit of respect as Omar Vizquel taps one first base side. And Island to McGriff for the put out. Vizquel retired. He's now 2 for 4 with 5 batted in this one. 2 down, nobody on as we get the view from outside. Cool and clear tonight in St. Petersburg as we view the scene from the Gum Out aerial cam. Glad to have him with us. Enrique Wilson now. So next week we'll really be checking out beautiful new Pacific Bell Park. We'll have the aerial cam there. We'll have the whole deal there, Joe. We're not only going to have our full complement of cameras and the ultra slow motion. Joe and I are bringing our own cameras. Just so we'll have some extras. Enrique Wilson, a switch hitter, batting left-handed. He's hitting in the place of Roberto Alomar, for whom he came in at second base in the 6th inning. And there's ball 1 from Dave Island. 15-12, Cleveland leading Tampa Bay. $15-1. Did I say, what did I say? 15 to...
I don't think the second number matters, Josh.
I'm going with 15-12, and that's
okay.
I'm trying to hold the ratings. Yeah. Maybe you clicked off for a second. No, it's 15-12 now. Yeah, you missed it.
Hey, we were thinking about Wade Boggs' numbers.
Yes, I was.
Since we saw a picture of him earlier, he was here at the ballpark. There he is.
I was remembering the old days of Wade Boggs. Of course, he didn't always wear number 12.
No.
It was when he went to the Yankees that he started wearing number 12. He had worn number 26 with the Red Sox. Came up with them back in 1982. It's the first year in a long, long time Wade Boggs has not been wearing a big league uniform. I miss him.
Yeah, I'm sure he misses the game, John. That first year is very tough. That ceremony is on Friday when they retired his number.
Two and two the count to Enrique Wilson. And Wade Boggs, the only player who got his 3,000th hit with a home run. And on that list of all those great hitters, there are a lot of other guys you would have figured would do that before you'd say Wade Boggs would have been the one. That's a foul ball, by the way.
Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Stan Musial,
All those guys, you would think that someone would have hit a home run. You're right. That's amazing. 3,010, and he only had 118 home runs. I say only. Hank Aaron had 755.
Cal Ripken, what is he, still six away? He went hitless today.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe he'll get his 3,000 hit to be a home run.
Well, you know, the night he tied Lou Gehrig's consecutive games record, he homered. The next night, when he broke the record, he homered again. So we know he can rise to the occasion. But now I feel like we're putting a little pressure.
No, you're putting the pressure on him. I said maybe.
You're sure expect him to go deep when he gets number 3,000. Base hit for Enrique Wilson. 2 down and a single for Wilson. The 13th hit for Cleveland. 15 runs, 13 hits. And Manny Ramirez is coming up. After the game, Sports Center. Complete to look at the Masters. And home run derby in the National League Central. McGuire, Sosa, Bagwell, Ken Griffey Jr., Brian Giles. I mean, if you don't have a guy who might hit 50, 60, 70 home runs,
you don't belong in the Central.
You can't get into the Central Division. Manny Ramirez. And the Cleveland Indians, all their sluggers. They're talking about maybe some realignment next year. But Cleveland should be realigned over to the National League Central. That's where they belong. It'll be interesting to see if anybody ends up being able to compete with Cleveland in the American League Central this year. I mean, they're the one team that the season starts and you know they're going to be in the postseason. Manny Ramirez way back in. Oh, boy. Goodbye. Well, they had 15 runs on the board, even though the most prolific RBI man in the last 61 years, Manny Ramirez with 165 batted in. He had gone 0 for 4 tonight with 3 strikeouts. Now he puts a couple on the board. 17-1 Cleveland. Ramirez with his 2nd home run. That, by the way, was his 200th career homer. He has just moved 1 ahead of his teammate Jim Thome, who's up right now. And Jim Thome, Joe, said that he was hoping when number 200 came that they'd both hit number 200 in the same game. They each hit number 199 in the same game yesterday here.
Well, this home run by Ramirez is inside out a little bit to straightaway center. Ball was on the inner half of the plate, and he just drilled it straight away a little bit to right center.
Well, he tried for number 200 right there. 2-2. Somebody said, do you realize that, Jim, you and Manny are both closing in on 200? He says, yeah, the PR man, Bart Swain, reminds us every single day. That's foul. He said he and Manny came up together in the minors. They spent their whole careers either hitting in front of or behind each other. So he hopes that they can both hit number 200 in the same game. And if it's going to happen, it's probably going to have to happen right here. Thome tonight has struck out 4 times in this game. Just a bit outside.
After you struck out 4 times, kind of hard to take that one.
Well, maybe figured that fate owed him one there. He got the call. 3 infielders to the right of second. 3-2 with 2 down. And he walks. (17-1), Cleveland ahead. Jim Thome gets the walk. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. Here's Richie Sexson. Yeah, I keep wanting to say last night. Yesterday, Steve Traxel was pitching. Ramirez and Tomey went deep consecutively. Number 199. And they were tied for 6th on the all-time list of Cleveland home run hitters. Albert Bell is number 1 on that list. 242. Earl Averill. He's one of your guys.
Right.
One of the immortals up there in Cooperstown. 226. Hal Trosky. Another great one. 216. Larry Doby. 215. Andre Thornton. He was a great slugger. 214. And now Manny Ramirez. 200. Jim Thome, 199. 17-1 Cleveland. The picnic area here at Tropicana Field. Out in left field, just beyond the bullpen. This guy got his cell phone. Let's see, who is he calling, Joe? ESPN rules.
Oh, okay.
Man. I guess so. It's official now. New pitcher, Steve Reed, and Gerald Williams didn't hit the ball, but the bat went a long way. And over to Travis Fryman. Gerald has had 2 hits tonight for Tampa Bay. But the Cleveland Indians, nonetheless, have outscored Tampa Bay by 16 runs. Steve Reed on relief of Bartolo Colon. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 hits, 9 strikeouts for Colon. Reed is a sidewinder. Gives a hitter a real different look. Why does that throw hitters off, Joe?
Well, because you're used to looking for the ball coming from a certain area, and when he drops down,
that's into left center field, into the alleyway. Gerald Williams has his 3rd hit of the game. Jacob Cruz plays the carom, gets it back. It's a stand-up double for Gerald Williams. He just keeps playing hard no matter what the score is.
Yeah, see, Gerald's a good addition to this ball club, especially with all the sluggers they have. He can run a little bit, play out good defensive outfielder. Take a look at this. See how he drops down? You're looking for the ball to come out of his shoulder up above, and it comes down, and you don't pick it up right away. But Gerald picks this one up and hammers it in the left center field. John, I know you'll be glad to know I just talked to Willie Mays, and he said he has my tickets.
For the home opener at Pacific Bell Park on Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah. Here's Alex Ramirez now in left field, replacing David Justice for the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland is ahead 17-1 as Tony Graffinino bats for the first time. 0-1 the count. Now here it comes. Past Reed up the middle, base hit into center field. Williams went back to the bag just in case somebody was going to catch that ball, even though the ball was hit behind him. First and third, nobody out.
Well, I think the last thing you want to do is make a base running mistake when you're down 17-1. Play station-to-station baseball. See how Reed drops down and throws a sidearm? He gets a lot of sink on his ball normally, just out of his reach, and it goes through in the center field for a base hit.
And this guy's been a very fine relief pitcher for a long time. With the San Francisco, he was a long time with the Colorado Rockies. He might have had more success pitching at Coors Field than any pitcher's ever had. He had some very fine years there for the Rockies. Went to the Giants in '98. They traded him to Cleveland in July of that year. He came along with Jacob Cruz in that trade. Jose Canseco has flied to shallow center, popped up to the catcher, and singled to left. Facing Steve Reed with runners at first and third here in the 7th inning. Cleveland ahead 17-1. And that's a ball up and away. Fred McGriff due up next, but Steve Cox has come out of the on-deck circle. A young Tampa Bay prospect. There he is. Canseco has to jump out of the way of that one. Cleveland flies all the way to California, to the Bay Area, after the game, and will play against the slugging Oakland Athletics tomorrow night. They got a long night and then a tough 3 games against Oakland. That slider Canseco hit it right off the end of the bat, 2-2. Jason Giambi had a grand slam today. Oakland got 14 runs against the White Sox, 14-2 the final. And they can put some power out there.
Yeah. Most of them let it go. They all swing pretty hard, John.
How about Matt Steer?
Matt. I love to see Matt hit.
Toward the middle. Vizquel, look at that play. One, Wilson to first, double play. Well, that cost Canseco an RBI. He did not like the call much. Williams scores in the play.
Well, he thought it was going to go into center field for a base hit. It appeared that way, and Vizquel made a nice catch, and then he backhanded the ball to Enrique Wilson, and he turned it over. And watch this. When he first hits it, it appears like it's going into center field for a base hit, but stretches out, makes it. Now look at that toss. Perfect toss to second, and he turned it over to first base.
And here's Cox. And he takes a big rip at the changeup. 0-1. Cox, who can hit with power and with average. Was at AAA last year, won the International League MVP award. Was named the Devil Rays Minor League Player of the Year. He led the International League in batting average, 341. He had 127 RBIs, and he had 49 doubles. And he's got a base hit here in the big leagues on Sunday Night Baseball. As a pinch hitter for Fred McGriff. He did play 5 games with the Devil Rays at the end of last year. Stay tuned now right after the ball game. Sports Center coming up. The whole story of the day in sports. And you can check out some of the day's happenings. It's the bottom line, as you're seeing right now, as the ball is bounced foul by Greg Vaughn. Vaughn is 0 for 2 with a walk and an RBI. The only runs the Devil Rays have scored on a force out hit into by Greg Vaughn in the third. He just beat the double play throw, and a double play hit into by Canseco here. I mean, they've just been completely smothered by the Cleveland Indians tonight. Devil Rays may offer to drive Cleveland to the airport if they need some help getting over there, just to get them out of here. 37 runs scored by Cleveland in this 3-game series against the Devil Rays. Sports Center is next, yes. Even he knows it. That slider off the outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Here's the base hit by Cox. Tiger Woods could have used some of that tonight. This afternoon at the Masters.
Back to the screen. 1-2 the count to Greg Vaughn. So now Cleveland plays all the way to Oakland. They played 3 games in Oakland. I mean, Oakland is not that close to Tampa Bay. You know, here in Florida.
Yeah, I found that out when I came here.
When you're in St. Petersburg, they say you're over in the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Cleveland Indians know that that's not exactly true, because they're going to the West Coast tonight. And after 3 games in Oakland, they go all the way back to Cleveland. 17-2, Cleveland ahead. We go to the 8th.
Watch NBA tonight, Tuesday through Saturday.
Cox stays in the ball again to play first base. And Alex Ramirez, as you see Cox over at first base, Ramirez took a strike. Ramirez had come on for David Justice during the 7th inning as a defensive replacement in left field. And that's a ball. Well, the Cleveland Indians, so much offense. They didn't do that much hitting in Baltimore at the start of the year. In fact, look out. Half swing foul as he was just trying to get out of the way of that one. Riding up and in. A ball and 2 strikes now to Alex Ramirez. Travis Fryman and Sandy Alomar scheduled to follow. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles and to their old manager, Mike Hargrove. And the new manager, Charlie Mangle, got kicked out of the 2 losses there, the last 2 games, both of them. But John Hart, the GM, pointed out after yesterday's game here in the clubhouse, they're undefeated in games where Manuel has managed the whole game. 0-2 when he was not around for the whole thing. But, you know, I've heard rumors, Joe, that a lot of times managers get kicked out, they still find a way to manage the team.
Yes.
That's a fair ball. Down the left field line past Herbert Perry, who made a dive for it. Nice effort. Alex Ramirez is into second with a stand-up double.
And the hits just keep on coming.
Joe Morgan auditioning for the to be a disc jockey now.
Ball's ripped over the bag, and really no chance as the ball goes down to the corner, and he ends up at second with a double.
Well, the whole Cleveland Ball Club is all smiles here tonight. Travis Fryman. This is a club, apparently, Joe, that knows how to soften the blow from a tough coast-to-coast all-night flight.
Right. Because you'd hate to be on the losing end of a score like this and have to fly all night to get there.
How about losing maybe 4-3? That'd make for a long night. Say, friends, log on to MajorLeagueBaseball.com for the most complete baseball coverage on the internet. MajorLeagueBaseball.com. Check it out. Travis Fryman, hitless, but then again, he's scored 3 runs, been on base 3 times with 3 walks. 0-2 the count. Cleveland in this game has had 3 doubles, 2 triples, and 3 homers. They have 15 hits, and more than half of them have gone for extra bases. 8 extra base hits out of the 15 totals, including home runs by Roberto Alomar, David Justice, Manny Ramirez, triples by Roberto Alomar and Kenny Lofton, doubles by Lofton, Alex Ramirez, and David Justice. He got the strike in there, strike 3. Sports Center coming up. This gives those guys a little extra chance to fine-tune the show. Whenever they come out a little bit late like this, it's always better, the shows that they put up for the awards.
Oh, okay. I actually thought they were ready to go on, though. They probably did their little dress rehearsal.
They were ready. It would have been an excellent show. But when they get the extra time like this, because they channel all of that stuff, Joe.
But yeah, well, also we're giving them a few more highlights to work with.
Could be 2 or 3 more homers in this one. Sandy Alomar, 2 for 4 with 2 batted in, hitting 9th in the order. 1-2 the count. Stay tuned. Sports Center coming up. Could be one of the great sports centers we've ever seen. I would not be surprised. Blowing outside from Jim Messier, the 5th Tampa Bay pitcher. I mean, it's been a long night to be a... Let me not say long night. I'll just say it's been the wrong night to be a Tampa Bay pitcher. Ryan Root, 3 1/3 innings, 8 runs. Jim Morris, an inning and a third, 5 runs, 2 earned. Rick White, 1 1/3 innings, 2 runs. Dave Island, 1 inning, 2 runs. Jam Sandy Alomar, and Sandy gets thrown out as Alex Ramirez moves over to third. Bartolo Colon looking to go 2-0. Went the first 6 for Cleveland in this one. Got tested really in 1 inning, the 3rd inning, where Tampa Bay had a chance to get back in the game, and he got through it. Threw 107 pitches. Went 1 more inning than he went the first time. He's only the 2nd Cleveland pitcher to make it to 6 innings here in the first go-around, the first week, as Jacob Cruz takes the ball. Dave Berman went 6 yesterday. Otherwise, all of the starters have gone only 5 in their first starts. That is too high. 2-0 to count. Cologne, Finley, Nagy, Jared Wright had all gone 5 in their first starts. Cleveland's starter's ERA was 5.81 coming into play tonight. You know, you talk about having a good bullpen. And we mentioned all of the runs the bullpen gave up in those 3 games in the playoffs to Boston last year. Well, usually that goes hand in hand with starting pitchers that get knocked out early.
Exactly. John, I guess Rich Eisen and Dan Patrick are in the studio for Sports Center. Rich has had a long day, man. He was on baseball today, and so he probably wanted to get on time.
No, I've seen Rich's work, and it's when he has only the one thing to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not that good.
Oh, so he's better when he has a lot to do.
He thrives
on work,
on just going on and on. Some people like to have a well-rounded life. Not Rich Eisen. For him, work is it, and that's it. Yeah, Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen. These guys know.
Yeah.
That is strike 3 called to Jacob Cruz, and the inning is over. The game, however, continues on. We go to the last of the 8, 17-2. Cleveland hanging on.
Leaders never rest on their accomplishments.
Against Herbert Perry, Bubba Trammell, Mike DeFelice. Cleveland with a 5-run second inning, a 5-run 4th inning, a 3-run 5th inning, 2 in the 6th and 2 in the 7th. They just 17. That's
17.
right. Yeah.
You're right.
Tampa Bay with single runs in the 3rd and 7th, 17-2. Cleveland leading Tampa Bay. You know, last year these clubs had a ball game in May. You know, Cleveland was a great come-from-behind team last year with all of that offense. Perry slams one to right field. Caught by Manny Ramirez.
Nice play.
Bravo. Nice play by Manny indeed. 1 gone here in the 8th inning. The batter will be Bubba Trammell. Alvaro Martin, our colleague, is with us tonight as we get another look at Manny Ramirez going after this one.
And the ball was tailing away from him. I thought he was going to get away from him, but he gets there and stretches out and makes the catch. Times it perfectly.
And here is Bubba Trammell in the dirt for a ball. You know, and Alvaro knows a little bit about Manny Ramirez. And Alvaro, I know maybe you had something else to talk about, but with Ramirez perhaps going to be a free agent at the end of this year. That one is slammed to the center. Jacob Cruz, he's not going to be able to get to it. Trammell will stop at second with a long double. But now Manny Ramirez grew up not far from Yankee Stadium, Alvaro, correct?
For Washington Heights High School, where Rod Carew played his high school ball. And if he turned around a little bit, he could see the lights of Yankee Stadium at the end of his practices. To his friends in the Dominican community in New York, he's mentioned that a vague desire to play at some point in the city. But when specifically I asked these friends, well, does he really want to play for the Yankees or the Mets? He said, well, he likes where he is. He'll wear the helmet that they give him next year. But other than the loose desire to someday perhaps play in New York, there's no specific intention of him going to play in New York anytime soon.
All right, so, I mean, right now, Manny seems to be very content playing in Cleveland. Well, the negotiations seem to have been amicable, and Cleveland feels like they can win with Manny this year, and they'll worry about what he's going to do
next year.
Yeah. DeFelice, the hitter. Devil Rays just got their 2nd extra base hit of the game. Gerald Williams earlier had a double. 1 strike the count. And that slider is in the dirt for Bobby Witt. 1 ball, 1 strike. Alvaro, I mean, Manny Ramirez, a guy who grew up in New York, but when he moved to New York with his family, I mean, he was, what, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, and didn't speak English even. One ball, 1 strike the count to DeFelice. And that is a little bit low for a ball. 2-1. And Manny has, you know, he's a guy that you would, Alvaro was talking earlier about the program that Cleveland has with its young players. And part of that is helping guys from the foreign countries learn the culture. And Manny Ramirez, I guess, was one of those guys who was part of that program, maybe benefited from the program, Alvaro.
He's one of the great products of that program. But remember one thing about Manny Ramirez. He's from New York, and when he goes back to New York, there's 500,000 Dominicans waiting to cheer him on at the stadium. A lot of them do show up on left field, waiting to collect a home run. So his experience at Yankee Stadium is always very pleasant. His experience in New York is always very pleasant. However, his experience playing in Cleveland and playing along with these sets of teammates has been wonderful as well.
There's a pop foul out of play. Yeah, so I mean, hey, we're baseball fans. We like to speculate. We like to start things going and then, you know, try to figure out what may be in somebody's mind. So what you're saying is, Alvaro, there's a lot of great things that happened to him in Cleveland. There's a pretty high comfort level for him in Cleveland. The fans love him. He's come up with that ball club. He's blossomed as a star with that ball club. His teammates, he's been there with Jim Thome and some of the guys for many, many years. But there's maybe a lure of New York as well, you're saying.
There's always the lure, but I think the support group, the Latin ball players in Cleveland, what he's received from management throughout, the support he's received, they're very strong cards to play when John Hart has to make a decision. Now,
that ball's in the dirt for ball 4, and over to third base goes Trammell as the ball got away from Sandy Alomar.
Now, what's interesting about the situation is John Hart in '96 decided on the last year of Albert Bell's contract to hang on to him, and eventually he left as a free agent to Chicago. The following year, before the season started, he traded Kenny Lawson to Atlanta. So we've seen Hart go in either direction. I think at this point they have to evaluate Manny's worth to the team. It's a talent-loaded team with a great minor league banner of talent as well. It's going to be an interesting decision.
Here's Ozzie Guillen. Fly ball, shallow center. Jacob Cruz with the catch. Nobody's going to try and move up here. Jacob showed pretty good arm there. They throw into the plate. So 2 men are gone, and we'll go to the top of the order for Gerald Williams. Let's take a look at the gum out. Devil Rays in-game box score. Gerald Williams has had a very fine night. 3 for 4. A couple of runs scored. In fact, the only run scored for the Devil Rays. Well, Alvaro Martin says that John Hart's going to have to evaluate the worth of Manny Ramirez to the team to decide whether he's going to keep him all year or maybe trade him. It looks like they're going to keep him. But Alvaro, on Sunday Night Baseball, we have Joe Morgan evaluates this guy's worth.
Well, obviously, I think that Manny has a perfect situation, you know, in Cleveland. They're hitting behind Alomar, Vizquel, and Lofton. I don't know what else you could want better as a player than to hit behind him.
Well, give him some advice.
But again, I guess a lot of it, well, I went out on the limb and said Ivan Rodriguez was going to stay in Texas.
Yeah, you did. 1997, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd already talked to Ivan. Okay. You know, I got a feel for it. I haven't talked to Manny to get a feel for it yet. I'll let you know, probably about the time we go to Cleveland. I'll make my decision at that point.
Later on in the season.
Yeah. But you can keep digging too, Alvaro.
Yeah.
0-2 the count to Gerald Williams. Trammell at third, DeFelice at first. 2 down in the 8th inning. 17-2, Cleveland is leading. And that's going to get a run home. That slider bouncing away from Sandy Alomar. So Trammell comes in to score. It's kind of a sarcastic sounding cheer from the Devil Rays fans.
Well, a few of them have gone home. I'm sure tomorrow's a school night. A lot of them have had to go to school in a work day, so a few of them have vacated the premises.
The Devil Rays have not wasted any clutch RBI hits tonight in a hopeless cause. This run scoring on a wild pitch. They've had 2 other runs scored on a double play grounder and a force play. Devil Rays have tomorrow off, and then Frank Thomas, Maglio Ordonez, and a very fine young Chicago White Sox ball club in here for 3. That's a fly foul off the right field line.
That's Gerald. That's interesting. The White Sox were in Oakland, and they're trading places with Cleveland.
White Sox having to come all the way from Oakland here, but they do get a day off. Cleveland goes to Oakland without the day off. 17-3, Cleveland ahead. You know, these 2 clubs had a game last year in May the 7th. This tells you how awesome Cleveland's offense is, and certainly was last year. They were behind by 8 runs. And not only did Cleveland come from an 8-run deficit to win the game, they won the game by 9. Now that's pretty impressive. They won 20-11. And they had 3 different games last year. They were down by 8 and came back and won. First team in Major League history to do that. Even the Big Red Machine did it 3 times in the same year.
We didn't get behind by 8 that often.
That's right. You have to get behind by 8 to qualify. They beat Toronto in a game last year, 18-4. It happens sometimes. I remember when Toronto was a second-year expansion team, and Baltimore was a perennial contender with Earl Weaver managing, Jim Palmer, the height of his powers. And one day the Orioles played up at the old exhibition stadium, and the Blue Jays beat Baltimore 24-10, which you would have said was absolutely, without question, impossible. Elrod Hendricks ended up pitching in that game. I think they had 2 different position players pitch in the game. Maybe Larry Harlow, an outfielder, pitched as well. 24-10. 3-2 the count. Over the mound. Wilson, look at that play. Not in time. Gerald Williams just has too much speed to be thrown out on that play. He's got his 4th hit of the game.
Base hit.
So he's still hustling. Still playing the game. Hit number 10 for Tampa Bay. Now Tony Graffanino will come up. I worked a ball game once in 1996. Davey Johnson's first year managing in Baltimore. And the Orioles went to the last of the 8th in Texas, down 10-7. You know, they were excited. They thought they had a chance to come back. Texas bullpen was shaky. And in the bottom of the 8th inning, Texas scored 16 runs in the 1 inning and won the game 26-7. That's a bad inning. That's a
Real bad.
I mean, that was unbelievable. Juan Gonzalez hit a grand slam in that inning against a guy who's now a backup shortstop for the New York Mets. He hit a grand slam against Manny Alexander. And Manny was not happy about it. 1 ball, 1 strike. The count to Graffanino. 2 on, 2 out of the 8th inning. Sports Center coming up. The Masters. And they'll have the whole story about what happened in Augusta. Griffey went deep. McGuire went deep. How about Sosa? I believe he went deep as well. What about Bagwell? What about Giles? I don't think Giles went deep against the big unit today.
No. No.
Randy Johnson shut out the Pirates 1-0. They'll have the highlights of that game, too. They'll have it all on Sports Center right after the game. We're in the last of the 8th inning. The Cleveland Indians are leading 17-3. Sandy Alomar wearing mask cam down there. Mask cam still working hard. That is a base hit. Graffanino dunks one in. Scoring is DeFelice. Going to third is Williams. Graffanino is 2 for 2 since coming into the game in the 7th inning, and it is 17-4 Cleveland. Bobby Witt, who at one time was one of the toughest hitters. He was one of the toughest pitchers for any hitter in the American League to face. And he had nasty stuff, and he was wild enough that guys had to kind of hang loose when they faced him. And he had a slider. He'd get 2 strikes on you, throw that slider. He was unhittable.
Yeah, he had a great slider.
Here's Canseco. Devil Rays have not had any big fly action tonight. Too high, ball 1. Seems to me Canseco and Witt were actually traded for one another. They were 2 of the big guys, and Canseco was traded by Oakland to Texas. Ruben Sierra went to Oakland. I believe Bobby Witt was involved in that trade. That's a strike on the outside. That was one of those trades that kind of amazed the baseball world, because Oakland had a 7-game lead in the pennant race. It was near the end of August, and then they traded one of their big sluggers. Popped up. Way up there. Omar Vizquel. And that is all. We're going to the ninth inning now. Vizquel coming up. 17-4 Cleveland.